Adolf Hitler. The dentist. Teddy and June. Fucking bastard Thatcher. Scouse impersonators. Silly, pathetic girly. Silly, pathetic woman. Macho dickhead.
Okay, all right. Whoa. Hey, hot chick, I understand we're in rough times. There's a lot going on. Everyone's a little bit on edge, but Adolf Hitler, macho dickhead, that's a bit much. Can we get the the good old fashioned intro, it's good enough for your grandpa, it's good enough for you, that kind of thing? How about that?
Pop Talk and Aliens, the William Cleere podcast.
We are going to hear a lot of lies.
All right. Okay.
What was that lies thing?
I think it was the beginning of another episode that I was cannibalizing for this one. It was just me talking about lies. We're going to be talking about lies.
Why was the hot chick swearing at us?
She's upset, dude. She's depressed. She's thinking about Hitler and going to the dentist and macho dickhead.
I think she called me a macho dickhead, or was that just something she was saying in general? Was that aimed at us, or was it just stream of consciousness? What was going on?
I have a feeling it was just stream of consciousness, because she said something about a silly, pathetic girl before that too. So I think she's in a bad mood. We all are. It's very tough right now. It's never-ending election. The coronavirus. It's the 2020s. Everyone's got them. It's like a condition. By the way, this is Pop Talk and Aliens. It is a podcast. I'm William Cleere. I'm joined by Charlie Crabtree, and we're going to talk some Mandalorian. Do a little mid-season recap for you. How you doing, Charlie?
Very good. Very good. I'm excited to talk about this half season. It's been freaking awesome. It's really good. Yeah. It's funny, even now, and we discussed in a past episode how I've been staying off of social media and stuff. I still get tagged on any article that has anything to do with Star Wars or The Mandalorian, and everything I've seen was kind of slightly negative, and I couldn't believe it. Like the very last episode, they said it might as well have been called The Side Mission, because it was so side mission, which Dave Filoni's kind of known for, he'll have story arcs and then just go hardcore side mission and then come right back out, and it almost doesn't even tie in. But they're always fun, right? Like we talk about the biker chicks from the Clone Wars, 4-story arc.
Right. Yeah, four stories for them.
But I heard that about this last one. I'm like, what the fuck? They're tying back into the main crew. There's big stuff at the end. I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves, but
obviously, if you're watching and listening to this, you've probably seen The Mandalorian up to this point, so spoilers will be rife throughout the thing. So it goes without saying.
I mean, if you haven't, why would you watch this before you watched that or listen?
I don't know. I always wonder, whenever there's a YouTube review, there'll be a non-spoiler review. Sometimes I'll see that and I'll be like, yeah. Why are you having a non-spoiler review?
Someone's going to go to YouTube to watch some fucking dickheads like us talking about a show that they're waiting to see, or I got to check with Bill and Charlie before I go watch this. I got to make sure it's cool.
Yeah, this maybe it won't be so good. I might have to skip it. Let's see what Bill and Charlie have to say first.
Right.
They'll take us through the episode in some odd way where they dodge all of the major plot points.
And spoiler alert, they know we're going to like it anyways. It's not like we're going to come back and be like, it's fucking horrible.
Yeah, I have not disliked a minute of this season of The Mandalorian. I don't understand. I get it with the side mission type thinking. But
did you see the same thing where they said it might as well be called The Side Mission?
I know.
The name of the episode?
No.
Side Mission. It's pretty funny.
That is, I think the second episode would have been the side mission more than this one, because like you said, this one, he goes back to see the original crew. There's things that tie in at the end, and I don't know. We'll get back to it, like you said, but it's the same way. I try to stay off social media as much as possible, and I will always get something like that every time there's some Star Wars development, I get a text or I get a fucking tag, and I can't avoid it. And with Mandalorian, I really try and stay off the spoilers. I don't want to know anything. I just really want to go into every episode completely fresh, not knowing a damn thing. And it's been successful so far. The only thing I've heard are things after the fact, like you just described.
Well, two of the big off-season spoilers and fan theories, and they turn out to be kind of true. I mean, you'll get into the episodes, but like the two big things I heard were Fett and Ahsoka. So
yeah,
and they're both here like within a couple episodes of each other.
Right. Well, and I mean, if you're gonna have spoilers that come true, I'll take those.
Yeah,
as the two.
Although I have a sneaking suspicion that we're not even going to see her in this season.
I'm a little
like they're really going to
that.
draw it out, and then it's going to go 5 side missions in a row, and then the final one, like it'll turn to the camera and it'll be her standing there, and she'll say like 2 words, and then.
I'm a little worried about that too, knowing how Filoni operates. I mean, all right, let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning, and then we'll work our way.
Sure.
To all of this, because it is. I mean, obviously, where we are in the season right now is pivotal.
Yes.
So we could spend the whole time talking about it, but let's recap to where we started off. We started off. First episode was called The Marshal, and the Marshal turned out to be Timothy Oliphant, not to be confused with Timothy Elephant,
or an elephant.
Or an elephant. There is no Timothy Elephant, but I don't know. I would name my elephant that if I had one. But so he comes in. The Mandalorian ship is broken, and he has to get it fixed. Or no, that's the beginning of all the rest of the other episodes. In this one, he does not have his ship is not broken. He starts off with going to the Gamorrean guard fights to meet with a one-eyed John Leguizamo played that part. I'm told.
Leguizamo, yep.
Leguizamo as he was the Cyclops.
Yep.
And isn't it funny? Just side note that anytime there's a one-eyed person, they call him like a Cyclops. But really, from what I understand, that I'm not a scholar, so correct me if I'm wrong. Cyclops in Greek mythology was just the name of a guy who had one eye.
I don't know that I knew that.
I didn't know that until
just anything with one eye is a Cyclops.
That's what I thought. That's the general, I think, prevailing.
But like if someone is missing an eye, right, or goes blind in an eye, you don't call them a Cyclops. So
I think it has to be.
I has to be the center. Okay.
One eye, dead center.
Cyclops Davis Jr. Like no one says that. You know what I mean? That's fucked up.
It's just you're automatically named that. So Cyclops, because we don't even know what his name. I mean, I'm sure he's named, but Cyclops, he's going to tell the Mandalorian where some Mandalorians are. Turns out he just wants to steal his Beskar, and Mandalorian uses whistling birds, kills everybody, and then ruthlessly ties up Cyclops upside down to let him get killed by those red-eyed monsters. And then,
that's right. Yeah.
I won't just describe every episode, but just to get us going. Then he's at Tatooine. Here comes Amy Sedaris.
Yep.
And immediately we get, and we get this throughout, particularly that episode, this sort of like, oh, look at that stuff. I've heard some people complain about that.
What do you mean?
We see R5-D4 come in, and you can clearly see that his motivator's fixed. Back from.
You're saying you think it's exactly the same robot, not just that model, but the actual one that had a bad motivator look.
Yeah, because she says R5, and then and maybe it's like an R5 unit, but she says R5, and then he comes in, and then there's a shot that's like gratuitously from behind him where there's like this welding stuff.
Right. Yep.
So it's like
I went back and looked after you said it. I don't even think I caught it the first time.
Yeah, that was actually I don't catch things the first time usually. I have to go back, but that was one I actually saw at the time, and I was like, oh, he got his motivator fixed. And then they got the pit droids doing their thing. And, what do you think? Do you think of that? Do you think there's over fan cert? Because in that same episode, we're going to find the crate dragon. So we're finally going to see what those bones were.
They are really like, they're pulling kitchen sinking at this point a little bit. I mean, I like it because it's cool, and why not? What else the fuck are they doing with that? What happened to that poor R5 unit with a bad motivator? Well, here he is.
Right. I think, and we also have to remember that this series takes place, I've heard Jon Favreau himself say 6 years after Return of the Jedi, but then I've heard other people say other things. But I'm going to take it from him that it's
Right.
6 years. So it's only been like 10 years or so since episode 4, maybe, right? Maybe less. We don't really know how much time passed between episode 4 and Return of the Jedi. So
I mean, the first Star Wars movie's like a day, and then it's like, 2 or 3 years pass between that episode. I don't know, how long is The Empire Strikes Back?
Well, very little time has to pass between Empire Strikes Back and Jedi, because they're making the plan to go get Lando and everything, and then
right,
it starts there. So it's probably, and you're right, episode 4 is like a day.
3 or 4 months in between, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, they put a plan together, but the plan, you don't plan for a whole year to go save someone who is in the process of getting murdered, possibly. So
Right.
it was probably a quick
Right.
plan that they threw together. And then the end of that Empire into Return of the Jedi, I mean, how long is that?
Yeah, that can't be long, because that's like you said, the plan wouldn't have taken that long, and so between 4 and 5 is probably the longest period of time. Maybe that's a year. Well, they build that Hoth base. I can't imagine it's that long if Darth Vader is obsessed with finding young Skywalker. I don't think he was like, oh, I'm going to take a year and then I'll start searching for him.
It had to have been more time, though.
Well, it had to, because they had to build the base and all that stuff.
Yeah, it takes a long time to build one of those bases.
It takes a long time to build one. Well, and that they had to get that fucking ion cannon set up.
Yeah,
that took a while.
Yeah, it takes a while.
But nevertheless, it's not that long since episode 4. So to see R5D4 in Mos Eisley repaired is really not that big of a deal.
Not a big deal, no. And the way that they repurpose and use everything on that planet, like, of course, right? Like, it's going to be back in action. Nothing is scrapped forever on Tatooine.
Jawas are carrying everything around, so everything is going to show up again in a sandcrawler at some point. Right. Everything. Those guys they will raid a fucking Sarlacc pit.
Clearly. To
get Boba Fett's armor, which is what we see when Timothy Oliphant walks into the bar this is the third Mos city that we've been in, Mos Pelgo now.
Right.
Where we find Timothy Oliphant at a bar. Did you think now, so he's clearly wearing Boba Fett's armor, there's no ambiguity. Did you think that he was Boba Fett for any amount of time?
0.
Same.
Yeah, 0.
He's all skinny and stuff, and yeah. I think
we also know what Boba Fett is supposed to look like at that basic age.
Well, before he took the mask off, though.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, no. I didn't even then think it for a second.
Same. Even when he was standing there and I saw the armor, I was like, well, that's not him. So Timothy Oliphant's character, his name is Cobb Vanth. And Charlie, I want, a lot of people know this now, but at the time, only the superfans knew that. I have in my vile clutches here a copy of the book Star Wars Aftermath, which came out in 1905. No, actually, it came out in 2015.
Uh-huh.
And so it's part of the, I know you hate this word, but it's part of the new canon.
This is acceptable.
It's like everything counts now. Yeah. And, now that we're talking Mandalorian, enough of this generic background. Let's get some Star Wars in here, up in this. get the controversial. We'll talk about this in a little bit.
You're witnessing genocide right over,
committing some
right
genocide.
behind you.
So in this book, Charlie, Aftermath, this is the first of a trilogy of books that takes place right after Return of the Jedi, like immediately, you know. And in it, there's a character named Cobb Vanth, and he is a marshal, and he encounters another guy, and they come across some Jawas with a box of that has a helmet and all the Boba Fett stuff. And the guy withdraws the helmet and he looks at it and he says, Mandalorians knew how to make armor, didn't they? Look at this. And then Cobb, the Timothy Oliphant character, says, I think I might actually take that home with me. The guy says, I think not. And he starts talking and talking and talking. And then Timothy Oliphant shoots him, takes the armor, and says, next time you want to pretend to be a gunfighter, best to shoot first and talk later. Bye now.
Wow. Okay.
So there's a couple things about that. The first is, that's the first time a character has come from strictly a book, as far as I know, and I know, strictly from a book and been put into live action. That's never happened before.
That's cool.
So nerds like me were completely stoked to see that they adapted it. But then there were nerds who were like all happy about it, and then they complained that in the flashback, when Timothy Oliphant shows how he got the Boba Fett armor, he doesn't show him shooting the guy.
No, he tells it in a much nicer way.
Yeah.
He needed to do it to protect the town, right?
Yeah.
That's why and how he got it.
Yeah.
Is that what happens in the book, that he does it to protect that small mining village?
I didn't go back and read like the whole thing. But he is a marshal, and he is like he is at odds with this mining company, you know, that's trying to take everything over. Because in this book, like, you know, the criminals are taking over the galaxy now that there's a vacuum and everything. It's basically the way they talk about it in the series. It's just the circumstances are slightly different, and I think that it's ridiculous to complain about that, because I think the fact that they are finally pulling things out of the source material that they said they didn't have is awesome, because they could have just said, oh, some guy had it in one of the books, found Boba Fett's armor. Let's just pretend that it's changed hands now and have a new guy have it. But instead they were like, no, let's get the guy from the book who got the armor and just have him be in this episode.
But was he also tough but fair in that book?
It seems like it. I mean, he shot the guy, but the guy tried to, you know, the guy was trying to swindle him and stuff, and eventually he had to shoot him. It goes on for a couple of pages between him taking the armor and Cobb shooting him. So yeah, tough but fair, I think.
Okay. Do you think a casting director has ever read like the words "the Marshal" in a script and didn't think of Timothy Oliphant?
No, not since
not since Tommy Lee Jones has anyone ever been more appropriate to cast as a marshal.
At one point, at one point, a transition happened where it was always Tommy Lee Jones, and now it's just Timothy Oliphant.
And every time there's a marshal, in the new series of Fargo, there's a fucking marshal. Like, he was a marshal on 2 different shows at the same time, and acted exactly the same way. Like you could have swapped those characters in and out. In Fargo, he's a Mormon, but like other than that, he's exactly the same.
Wasn't he a marshal in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? He was at least a cowboy.
Something like that. And then of course, you know, he's the sheriff in what's it called? The HBO God. Come on, the cowboy show HBO. They just had
Deadwood.
Yeah.
That's where the transition happened. Was Deadwood.
After that, like, oh, this is what a marshal is.
Yeah. From now on, marshal. So anyway, he takes his helmet off immediately, and Mandalorian gets pissed off. They're going to have a gunfight right there in the bar. And they make a bargain. Hey, this crate dragon keeps fucking up the town. Let's take it out. And then they go hang out with some Tusken Raiders, aka Sand People,
mm-hmm.
who, you know, they eventually help them. It's kind of a side mission to start the show. I mean, they introduced the Boba Fett armor thing, and that's important. And they continue to show that like the Mandalorians, you know, also tough but fair. Like, okay, I won't kill you if you make a deal with me to get the armor.
Yeah, but to start the season, like, he's got nowhere to go. He knows he's supposed to deliver the child to some kind of people somewhere. He's got vague information. He's looking for other Mandalorians to back him up to be able to do it. So it's not like, you know, there's no time out. He's just trying to find his way through space to find some vague group of people that are going to do something. So the fact that there are so many side missions and him going different places because he's not really sure where the fuck to go. It's not like he has a map. He's like, all right, this is where I need to take you. But first, we're going to kill a crate dragon, and then we're also going to go, you know, on this other adventure for no reason. Like, he's finding his way. Yeah.
No, of course.
It's a journey. The show is a journey.
Yes, he has to. He can't. If he just showed up, he has no idea where to go. So he's got to go somewhere. It's the fact that the whole episode, you know, I loved it. I loved the episode. I loved you. For me, all of Star Wars could just take place on Tatooine, and I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
I love Tatooine.
Sure.
I love that Mandalorian is riddled with desert planets. Basically, every planet they go to is a desert planet, except for that one where he met Gina Carano in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a nice foresty planet.
Right.
Aside from that, pretty much deserts.
A lot of deserts, man.
Or lava-based deserts.
Yeah, a lot of lava. Yeah, they could do like a Western in Tatooine. It could be just Deadwood. It would still have Timothy Olyphant there. And it would just be like a Western where they never left like the small mining town where people get drunk and in fights and he's got to break them up and stuff. Maybe
they can work Timothy Olyphant into the Obi-Wan series as either that Marshal or another one. Because that's going to, I would assume, take place mostly on Tatooine.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be years earlier, but he could still be like a young, I don't know, whatever. But anyway, they fight the Krayt Dragon with the Sand People. And Charlie, I've always thought it was funny that the Tusken Raiders are referred to as Sand People.
I mean, it's just lazy. They live in the sand.
I know, but it's like something that a child would come up with.
Well,
Sand People.
It's a movie for children, so I guess so, right?
I love it. I love it that they're just called that. Back in the day, when we first started liking Star Wars, the characters were just called what they looked like. Walrus Man, Snaggletooth, Sand
Hammerhead.
People,
Sand
Hammerhead.
People.
Yeah, they were just called what they were or looked like.
Yeah.
Cyclops. Would have been one of them.
Yeah.
All right, so they're victorious in the Krayt Dragon battle.
You didn't even talk about whether or not you liked the Krayt Dragon. I seem to remember you not being stoked that there was a Krayt Dragon at all that you got to see, and it's all in all its glory. Because like the first thing you see in Star Wars is obviously, the space battle. But then like when it really becomes Star Wars, where it's like, all right, this is like the universe all its own. It's them landing on Tatooine. You see the bones of a Krayt Dragon on that ridge with C-3PO and R2-D2. These guys. And it is kind of like one of the first things you think is like, what the fuck did that thing look like? That's one of the first things like that you like imagine, like what the hell was that thing as a living being?
Yeah, it's something that it grew on me after watching it a couple of times. The first time, I totally enjoyed it. I thought it was great. The cooperation with them and the Sand People, and the fact that Timothy Olyphant hates them, and all of that, and the fact that the Mandalorian can like chill with them. I love that, the different side of it. And then when they were battling the thing, like the battle was fucking great, and it ended awesome with them jetpacking up to him, and then Mandalorian knocks the jetpack off of him so he can't go up with him, and he shocks him in his mouth with that thing that he used in the first episode. Remember, he shocked that creature?
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah, I grew to love it. And it was because of that. Like, I remember the storybook of Star Wars had one of the pictures was just like a full page layout of C-3PO standing on a little ridge with that crate dragon skeleton.
Yeah, that's like one of the first things where you're like, what the hell? And it makes it seem like, how cool is it that they go to a planet and they don't even show like a creature, they just show the skeleton of a creature. So like, not only is that imaginative, but then on top of it, you have to use your own imagination to imagine what it looked like fully fleshed out.
It's
like, that's pretty cool, right?
It's classic George Lucas, and I think that whole movie, and it's like that's one of the little things that like represents so many other things that he did back then to jog your own imagination by just putting this thing.
Probably had to
like,
do with budget, by the way. Like,
oh sure, too.
How are we gonna make this crate dragon go in? No, we'll show its dead bones. Well, you can imagine it.
There's a lot of those
that work.
I think that were that like for budgetary reasons, but like there's like the mention of the Clone Wars, but there's no explanation as to what that was or anything. Just
right.
Your imagination goes wild. So now we finally get to see Crate Dragon. I think my main issue with it was that they had to eat the egg at the end.
All right. When they're like holding the egg up.
Well, it's just because they had the episode in the first season where he goes to get the dragon out of a cave, and then the big egg is like the big payoff, right? So it was like this one, it was like another egg.
What was for them? It wasn't the big payoff. It was just like they're either going to raise one so they can try to have their own crate dragon, or it's really good eating. It could be some delicacy.
Well, there was some. I mean, Mando took a fucking huge cut of chop.
Yeah,
from that thing.
So that shit's probably delicious, Bill.
It must be, because he took a lot of it. And then when Amy Sedaris saw it, she was like super fired up about eating it too.
Also, they had to have that because they do have to explain how the fuck Boba Fett got out of the Sarlacc pit. So I think that it is setting something up for later. One, it shows how Mando flew down his stomach and then got out of it, right?
Right.
Got his way out of it. And then also they explain that they are big enough to eat Sarlaccs.
That was the coolest thing. That is literally, honestly, one of the coolest things I've ever heard someone say in Star Wars was that thing ate a Sarlacc.
Right.
Exactly. Almighty Sarlacc, Charlie.
Yeah, right. So is that how Boba Fett got out? Like he was just, because you're going to be digested slowly for 1,000 years. I don't know how many of those years you could survive.
That's what I always wonder.
Does it feed you while you're in there? Because it's like, oh, it's going to be this torturous thing. But it's like, well, no, because after 7 days, he's going to die of lack of water. But like, maybe there's like this way where it gets tentacles into you and like, IV drips into, water into your body and gives you just enough food to stay alive because the thing wants you to be tortured. You know what I mean? Like it wants his, and also you're only going to live for like 100 years anyways. You're just going to die of natural causes. So you're not really going to be tortured to death for 1,000 years ever, no matter what.
I have been thinking about this since I was 9 years old.
It like puts your body in this like mummified state where you just are barely alive. Your body is just very, very slowly aging, slows down the aging process.
Serpent in the Rainbow, where you're just like, you can't move, but you're alive and you know that this thing's torturing you. It's painful. I swear, because ever since I first heard that line when I was a little kid, I thought, well, how long you're not gonna be alive for that 1,000 years. You're gonna, like you just said, like you're gonna die of dehydration or the stomach acid or whatever the fuck else is in there. So it's like the 1,000 years. It's like, well, it sucks, but like I'm.
Also, how do they know that? How would you know that? Like, this is something that was alive 1,000 years ago, and we're 500 years in, and it's still being digested, or something, or
maybe wherever the Sarlacc has his leavings, there were some space archaeologists that carbon dated something, and they figured out it was 1,000 years old, and it had just come out of him, so it must have taken 1,000 years to digest.
When they in Empire Strikes Back during the asteroid field battle, and they flew into that monster, were they slowly being like digested and they didn't even know it? There's this thing where like you can fly into creatures and live inside there a lot. It's like a George Lucas thing that he kind of comes back to.
Yeah.
Like that mist in there, like no, you guys were actually being digested. I mean, it would take over 1,000 years to completely digest you, so you probably didn't notice anything. Like when you left, your skin was probably really dry, right? Yeah, you were being digested by a space slug or whatever the fuck that thing was.
For 1,000 years. And this crate dragon fucking ate that thing. And maybe that's how Boba Fett got out. We don't know. I think there is actually a mention in this book of something, but so
or he had the
is,
shocker stick.
That's what I mean. I always figured that it really shouldn't. Of all people, I always thought it wouldn't be that problematic for him to get out of there. He's got armor, he's got weapons and stuff. It's like, of all people, like I don't see it as being.
He got a jetpack, and there's just a gaping hole at the top of it that he had to fall down anyway. So just fly right back out of that fucking hole.
Yeah, and I think he still had his jetpack at the time. I mean, Boba Fett's jetpack sucks. We know that.
Well, it had like one charge in it, and it hit, and it flew down, and yeah, that was it.
But even in the Mandalorian, he just like bumps it and just falls off.
That's true.
It's not the best that Beskar can buy, you know.
Well,
for Boba Fett.
And to be fair, he's not a true Mandalorian either. Boba Fett is not a Mandalorian, so maybe he didn't get like the secret user guide.
Right.
He got he built his own versus like getting it made by the guild in the right way.
Right. Like it's kind of like Kylo Ren's lightsaber. Because
yeah,
like,
exactly. Aftermarket piece of shit.
Off-brand.
Yeah.
Fucking rocket. So okay, but look, I eventually grew to love it. I love that episode. I've watched all the episodes of the season multiple times now. I think it's better than last season, and I loved last season.
Same.
But so Amy Sedaris tells him, I guess now we're in the second episode, which takes place. Oh, the second episode was one of the greatest beginnings, I thought.
And we got to see the Sand People walk in single file. How cool was that?
I'm glad you reminded me that. They walked in single file. They don't miss.
No, they didn't miss anything.
They never miss a goddamn thing on this show, Charlie.
Also, they're up, like high up, and they're just kind of looking down at them, and they're going somewhere else. They don't call like any attention to it. You just got to know to look for it.
No, I didn't. That's something I didn't notice the first time either. I think you.
No, it never occurred to me. It never occurred to me, and then I went back.
Yeah. I remember I saw a picture, something that reminded me that they did that. I didn't notice when I was watching it the first time around. So the second episode takes place. It starts immediately after that, and they're trying to like rope Mandalorian, and they trip him up on a speed bike. Oh, I'm sorry. We do need to talk about Timothy Oliphant's speeder bike, maybe or maybe not being Anakin Skywalker's pod racer.
Or the bar that they're in looked like pieces of one of the Jabba sales barges. And I had said that to you, and you're like, no, there's no fucking way, that's stupid. And then it turns out, yeah, you gave me hell about that one too. One, really you hated the Crate Dragon. Two, you didn't like that it was part of, possibly part of his barge. And they are out in the Dune Sea, right?
I think they are. They make a reference to it. But I just want to clarify for the audience.
Okay.
In terms of who I am as a person. When you told me about that, I was just like, I don't know. That was my reaction.
Oh, man, you might be right.
Because I thought maybe that's too much stuff. But also in that book, I do believe it actually says that they had scoured his sail barge too. And if they were at the Sarlacc pit getting armor, most certainly they would have taken the sail barge stuff too. So yeah, you're right. But I don't think I told you to shut up or you're stupid.
Just kidding.
I think there might be some of the sail bar. Will you shut the fuck up?
It's too much at this point. It's too much. Everything from the original show can't be worked in here. Anything that wasn't like the Jawas, anything that wasn't strapped down, Filoni and Favreau grabbed for their own. Repurposed it just like a couple of Jawas.
Just like they are like a couple of Jawas, just toting around the sandcrawler full of goodies all the time for us.
That's right.
But actually, no, I think you're right, and I think it actually says I'm looking every time I look down. I'm looking at that book that's sitting on the floor. I think they say in that book too that they ransacked that sail barge. But there's talk And certainly it looks like Timothy Oliphant's speeder might be repurposed from Anakin Skywalker's pod racer.
That was another thing I brought up to you, and you're like, no. You're getting sick of it at that point because I kept saying, what about this thing? And because you don't know, so like, okay, this, if it looks like it kind of and it reminds you of it, now you have to look at, is it?
I'm starting to think the general rule on the show is if it may look like it, it is.
It is. Well, no one, it's definitely the same style, right?
Well,
like
I did not. I did not disagree with you
engine.
Yes, I did not disagree with you that it was a pod racer.
Right.
And you pointed that out because I didn't. That's another. I just things go by me. That's why I watched it over and over again. Because I don't notice things.
As you know from like, you know, not only watching the movie with the pod races, but then playing the video game that had all the pod racing in it. Like all the engines are totally different and look different. So it was definitely the same engine type that he had to a T. Whether or not it was actually his is another thing. He built his own, but like I doubt he built it from scrap up. So it might be a common model, but it was definitely the same engine type.
Yeah, which is awesome. One way or the other, you know. Maybe if it's Anakin's, it's just too many coincidences. But you know, I mean, I don't care.
Which is weird though, because if you think of this, if you go and watch like the pod race scene, nobody has the same kind of engine, so it does seem like they're very, very custom made.
Yeah.
It isn't like, you know, Ford versus Chevy, and there's like, you know, it's the same type of stuff. It's just slightly different engines or components. It's like you make your own jet engine, and everyone makes it a different way. So.
Yeah, one guy has
4. To
four.
think it is. Right, exactly.
And,
some of them are huge.
His name, much like the old Star Wars names that are just what they are, the guy's name is Ben Quadraneros.
Because he drives a 4-engine speeder.
So it was like, did his name come, did he decide to have a pod racer with 4 engines because his name was Quadraneros? Or did he rename himself Quadraneros because of the 4 engines, or did it just not have anything to do with anything? Just coincidence.
Bill, I got this character. He's like a gunslinger guy. He's got really fast hands, and you know he's out in space by himself all the time. Han Solo? Yes, perfect.
You know, Charlie, my name is George Lucas, and you know, my whole dream is just to, you know, get out of here and fly and drive cars and just, you know, get out in the sky, walk around, you know, Luke Skywalker.
He walks in the sky. Perfect.
You know, there's a place where the Millennium Falcon needs to land when it's fixing its hyperdrive. I was thinking there'd be a guy named Lando.
God.
That's all right. I've taken it a step too far. But there are so many of those. So many. Han Solo, it was always one of those. That's why I never really liked it that he was named whatever. But that's a whole other story. I wish he had named himself in the Solo movie. I wish the guy had been like.
Oh, I see. So it seemed like it was like his pirate name or something.
Yeah.
To make up
he
your own name.
He coined himself that. But anyway, whatever. So, all right. So I think we've covered. There's a lot to cover in episode 1. So we've covered that. We get to episode 2, and I love the Mandalorian's little conflict in the beginning where he gives the guy the jetpack. You know, the little dude. It's like here, just take it.
Right.
Take it. And then he flies him up into the air and he drops him off, and then he just lets. It goes to show you that even though the Mandalorian is developing a better moral compass, he's still a fucking ruthless prick when he needs to.
Listen, when it comes to their armor and their tools and their stuff, there's zero tolerance. Because like when he's telling Timothy Oliphant to take the armor off, he's not fucking around. No, and the guy's like, do we have to do this? We have to do it in front of the kid. Like, really? Is it really coming to this? Like, I used it to protect the town. Like, Timothy Oliphant wasn't being a total fuckhead about it.
No,
like,
he wasn't.
He's just like, no. And he was definitely going to kill him for it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Zero tolerance.
And as you learn later, like isn't really a true line of well, we'll get into it, but like he's a zealot, or from a group of zealots that are extremists on the outside that kind of maybe brainwashed him or trained him in their way, which is out of control, clearly.
And possibly derivative of the Clone Wars, Death Watch.
Right. Death Watch, of course, yeah.
So all right, so now we're at he goes back into the bar and Amy Sedaris is playing she's playing sabacc with some fly creature whose name is probably Fly.
Yep. Yep.
And or should be. And then she says, he knows somebody who knows somebody who knows a Mandalorian, and little joke in there too, little Easter egg, no pun intended, in that scene is that she has an idiot's array. That's her winning hand, and that's what that's from an episode of Rebels. Lando won something by having an idiot's array. I think it's like a full house, in sabacc.
I don't know.
It's not a full sabacc because that's
I haven't studied the different hands.
Those are the only two I know. There's an idiot's array, which I guess is really good.
I mean, there's people out there that speak Klingon, so you got to be damn sure that there's some kind of sabacc club where everyone knows how to play and knows all the actual rules.
I'm sure there is. I think people can actually speak Arabesh too, the like weird symbols language that they all look at. I think there are people who have looked at enough like signs, like actual like pictures of that stuff in the movies that have like pieced together pieces of it.
So they can read and write in that?
Or so just so they can be like, oh, I saw in the preview there's a ship and it's got the Orabesh writing. I'm pretty sure that says Boba Fett or something like that. They actually.
This just occurred to me. Is this the exact same cup that they drink the blue milk out of?
Does
it look exactly like this?
I thought that you brought that on purpose.
I didn't. I didn't. I should have. I'll go put milk in it and finish the episode drinking milk.
Yeah, that's basically what they're using. So she eats some of the dragon steak. She says, "Oh, I vouched for this person with my life," and then turns out she just met him. It's the girl with the eggs, creature with the eggs, and Mandalorian says, well, "Fuck, I can't fly at light speed, son of a bitch." And she says, "Well, it's not that far. Just take her to this planet, and she'll introduce you to the Mandalorian." So at that point, we get to Yoda. Here's the thing about the eggs, all right? So for anyone who doesn't know, there's this big controversy that people were canceling Baby Yoda because he was committing genocide.
People were. I think it was like 5 people, and
I don't know how many. I don't know how big that movement was, but in a rare moment of unity, because that's something I didn't know about this. I wouldn't have known about this, but someone emailed it to me or texted me or something, and so I looked into it and everything, and I saw that. Just from like screenshots of tweets and stuff, it looked like in a very rare moment of solidarity, Star Wars fans came together to quash this ridiculous notion.
Thank God.
That Yoda was committing genocide by eating a couple of many unfertilized eggs. And she never even said like, "Hey, what the fuck? I'm running out of eggs." It was just like he took a couple.
Also, in a made-up universe of made-up creatures that don't exist at all, so like you would have thought like they had him like eating like California condors and like bald eagles and stuff, and just like that they were. Oh my God, it's almost too stupid to talk about. This is a fucking made-up thing. Like, we're getting upset about Baby Yoda genocide? What the fuck?
It's creatures eating creatures in a made-up universe. But I did want to tell you that Daisy Ridley chimed in on it, Charlie.
She did?
Yeah. The reason I wanted to point this out because I think that Daisy Ridley is a wonderful ambassador of Star Wars. She is like, of the whole new cast of those movies that are loved by a few and hated by so many, even people in them, she is one of the people that is just she's just like during the beginning of the quarantine, she was doing things on Instagram where she would like And she doesn't even have social media, but she'd do it through the Star Wars channel. She'd like sit in her pajamas and read kids like books about BB-8 and stuff. It was fucking adorable. So she said in some interview, "Oh, cancel culture. Look, Mando's got to eat. Yoda's got to get strong. That's just that." I'm like, Yoda, do your thing. The creature got to be where she needed to be. It was all good. It was beautiful.
Very nice.
As always for Daisy Ridley.
She's
always
lovely.
Championing Star Wars. Always doing it, and so well spoken.
She's wonderful.
I don't know. I think we could probably leave it at that. I just wanted. I did want to say that there is some. Yoda has a further fascination with those eggs than just eating them. They go out of their way to show that. He's like seeing them, and there's like something about them. And then when he finally sees one come out of the egg, he's like, "Oh my god!" And then at the end of the third episode, he's already
playing with it. Yeah.
So there's something I think else maybe going on there, but even if there isn't, he ate a couple of fucking eggs.
He's figuring out the cycle of life in real time. Because also when he's putting his hand up to him, like the eggs start kind of slowly moving to it.
Yeah.
He hasn't used the force power since the that I can remember since like when? Since the rhino thing?
The last time I can remember him using it was at the end of the first season when the fire comes. It's like a flame trooper, and I don't think he's used it since then, and it fucking exhausted his ass when he did that.
That's right. Yeah,
he was out for a long time. So I think he doesn't really use it so much. I'll tell you what bothers me more than him eating eggs, a lot more in terms of him eating stuff. It's I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but in the last episode, they take Yoda to a classroom, like a space Montessori.
Yeah.
Sit there and like a droid's teaching them and stuff. And he sees a kid eating a Girl Scout cookie package of macaroons.
Yeah, space macaroons.
They're not space macaroons, though.
No, I know, they're just blue. I know.
Fucking macaroons.
I know.
Why couldn't it really honestly annoyed me that was so earthly. I was like, could you at least not have them come out of a fucking like
foil package?
Yeah, like a foil package, and then it's just macaroons that some half-ass blue food coloring. I mean, I know that like in the cup you're drinking out of is like a plastic cup, and they put blue milk in it, so it's like, is this really any different? But yes, because they weren't drinking it out of cartons.
Right.
It's not like he had a jug of fucking Berkeley Farms milk. He was just pouring, but it was blue.
Right.
That was like that really annoyed me. I was like, he's just fucking eating macaroons out of a package.
Wait, you're skipping too many episodes ahead.
I'm skipping too many aheads. I just wanted to talk about, if you're going to be mad about something Yoda ate, it should be the macaroons, not the eggs. So, but that whole episode, to me, if you were going to call an episode side mission, it's that one, because his only job is to take this creature, this girl with her eggs, to her planet, and he can't throughout the entire episode because
he's running away from
he's
ditching the fuzz, right? Running from the cops.
That's right. He's ditching the fuzz, and the fuzz is Dave Filoni and some other guy. And also, Dave Filoni was one of the X-Wing pilots in the last time we saw X-Wing pilots. So
this was the same two pilots that shot up the gang, right? Bill Burr's gang of people.
One of them is different because the first three were all directors. It was Rick Famuyiwa, Deborah Chow, and Dave Filoni were the three. And this other guy's a new guy. So it's like they got four X-Wing pilots patrolling the Outer Rim.
He had to have done something, like maybe he's one of the producers or something. Got to go back and look at that.
I mean, he probably is something. I meant to look that up, but I don't know. I think I've heard his name. I think maybe he's just an actor. But either way, whatever. He that's the whole reason that episode happens. But I also thought that even though it was a side mission, that was enthrallingly entertaining. That episode.
All the space spiders and stuff.
Yeah, it was kind of like video game-ish, but like.
Yeah, but remember the Star Wars comics? They always had like weird creatures and monsters that they had to get away from, and I like that kind of stuff.
Oh, always.
More,
Yeah.
more
I
from
mean,
that universe.
getting out of, like you said earlier, flying out of a snake's mouth. They go to the garbage compactor, and of course, the creatures got to pop up.
And do you
Obi-Wan
think
and
that?
Qui-Gon can't even get to fucking the Muthid City without getting chased by 3 fish.
Right,
One
right,
bigger than the
right,
other every time.
right.
Yeah, I love it. I love that stuff.
Do you think that those spiders were just there? They were just, like waiting to hatch and do their thing, or is it the fact that Yoda ate one and baby Yoda ate one, and then the hive mind went nuts and it set off a chain of events? Because he's just kind of walking through. And he's like, oh, look at this. Everything he sees that's alive, that's smaller than him, the motherfucker eats it.
He's becoming like a little like a baby. Like he's growing up a little more. Now he walks all the time and he makes a lot more noise, and he wants to fucking eat everything that he sees. My thought, and I'm an idiot about this stuff. My thought was that they were just like hibernating or something. And so, yeah, it was like a hive mind type of thing. So it's like when
then one of them gets eaten, and then they all start springing to life.
Yeah, and then there's like their queen one that I thought, like him shooting those things, trying to shoot those things off one by one, and trying to decide, like, am I gonna just try and pick these off one by one? That's never gonna work. Or just get in the fucking ship. And then when he finally like burns, I thought at some point Baby Yoda was gonna use the Force to get rid of him, but they didn't go that easy route. He had to burn them just before they got into the cockpit, which was that whole thing was awesome.
Also, a side mission that could be explaining future events, right? Because it's the second time that those X-wing sheriffs have shown up to find out what the hell Mando's up to. So we have not seen the last of those guys. They're going to keep coming back. They might play into something later, but you don't know if they're setting up like some future stuff too. Like, you have to have some unknown stuff in a season. Like sometimes a side mission actually, in hindsight, is like a main storyline. Well, maybe not this one, because it literally is space spider for like 10 minutes of a 25-minute episode. But them coming at the end to kind of bail them out, and like they let them go because they saved, I don't know. They took out the Imperial people on that ship.
That's important though, because it's almost he basically kind of got his record clean, I think. Kind of.
Right.
Like, I don't think he was completely off the hook, but it was like, like I have a feeling that he doesn't have to be quite as afraid of the Republic as much. He just needs to fix his transponder or whatever the fuck they were so obsessed about him having.
Right.
Should mention probably, side note, that Boba Fett showed up at the end of the last episode.
Oh yeah, we missed that. Well, what we suspect is him. Oh no, we confirmed it's the same actor. So
it is Tamora Morrison. And here's another thing, Charlie.
Looking old and digested, by the way. It did look like he had been digested for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, not the full, definitely not. I mean, well, obviously not the full 1,000, but maybe,
but all his hair was gone, his eyebrows were gone and stuff.
Skin his face was all fucked up. Again, to illustrate why I'm so stupid and have to rewatch things. That's why, like, even when I do this podcast, one of the reasons that like I don't come out with episodes more regularly is because, like, even if I'm doing like an alien thing, it's like I gotta watch and read things kind of over again to make sure I caught everything.
I don't know the name of anything ever.
Shit flies by me. So I really gotta lock it down. And when he walked past camera, now granted he was backlit, you couldn't really see his face a whole lot, but I didn't say, "Oh my God, Boba Fett," or it wasn't until they were running the ending credits and it said Tamora Morrison that I was like, "Oh my fucking God, that's." I mean, he played Jango Fett, but he obviously he played all the clones. So he is Boba Fett. I mean, he could technically be another clone, but what would be the point of that?
Something that ties to the Boba Fett story, because he's hunting Boba Fett's armor one way or another. So he's either a clone or it's him. And if you're going to go that fucking far, why would you wimp out and be like, oh, it's not actually Boba Fett. He actually did die.
Right.
Sarlacc, you know, takes a shit every once in a while, and this armor came out. Like, oh, that's not a really good story arc. Right? Like he had to have gotten out, or like, yes, he got out of the Sarlacc, and he died of natural causes, and then people have been stealing his armor back and forth, and I'm just trying to track it down for him. Died like, 4 episodes ago or something. Like,
can you imagine? They got all this excitement. Boba Fett came back. He did?
But he died right before the Mandalorian season started. Right before it, though. You guys just missed him. He was just here.
That would be the greatest in the very first episode. If like the bartender, the Horatio Sands character was like, yeah, there was a guy who looked just like you. The armor was a little different color, blah, blah, blah. They perfectly described Boba Fett, and he got killed. You just missed it.
Yeah. Just
talked about how he flew out of some creature's mouth in the desert. Real interesting guy. Yeah, I got killed. You missed it. Sorry.
Anyways, next I could just go on with it.
Like, wait, what?
They did that for nothing.
Oh, also there was a girl with 2 white lightsabers. She had these things on. I think her name was, what was her name? Ahsoka. Got killed. Just missed her.
Yeah.
But so it's Tamora Morrison, and we did see last season in the episode where him, which was total again a side mission, where him and the gunslinger kid went to hunt that bounty, and then at the very end you see the robes
right
around. So obvious, yeah, he's looking for that armor. He wants that shit.
Is that who that was?
I'm assuming so.
Same person?
Well, we only see robes. We only see like a robe.
Like,
but he's wearing a robe. He's wearing a nice robe when we see him.
A lot of robes. If you go to space, pack a robe.
Yeah, especially if you're gonna be on Tatooine. Tatooine.
Yeah, but people have robes on every planet, and there's all kinds of different robes. Lots of robes and capes.
Robes and capes. Yeah. I also used to wonder back in the day. They've since kind of moved away from it, but back like from episode 4 to Phantom Menace, it was kind of like, do people from Tatooine dress like Jedi, or do Jedi dress like people from Tatooine? Like everyone, like Lars, and they all wore like a Jedi outfit.
Wraps, like yeah. You got like, you wrap each limb individually, kind of clothing.
Yeah. Ray does that too.
But then have blousey stuff. It's blousey, but then also like skin tight wrapping at the same time. I don't know. It's weird.
Hey, it's great costume design.
Put a robe over it, and you're a fucking Jedi.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right. You get some tape. You get some you tape some random parts of yourself up, skin tight. Other parts not. Put a robe over it. You're good to go. Cosplay. There was what was I going to say? It had to do with that, but I can't remember.
It would make sense, because if you were on a planet with 2 suns, any exposed sun, it's like instant sun cancer. So, you got to wrap everything up, I guess.
Yeah,
really need to make
and
sure
in light,
covered.
reflective clothing that's durable. All the robes and stuff are always very durable. That clothing.
I wonder why people like in Arizona don't dress like that. It'd be great to go to Arizona and everyone dresses with that.
If I ever move to a desert area, I'm gonna dress like that, and that's it, just all the time.
Like you're on Tatooine. Yeah.
Luke Skywalker is wearing one of those outfits at the end of Force Awakens, and then because he was supposed to be like a cool Jedi and stuff, and then when Rian Johnson wrote it, he immediately made him change into like a black like smock.
Right.
Just furthest thing from like any Jedi looking thing he could find. But he also had a robe. He did have a robe.
Yeah.
Even the Last Jedi, he had a robe.
Yeah. You have to have a robe.
So we see the robes last season, and then we see Boba Fett is in fact wearing a robe at the end of episode 1. Gone through episode 3 with the eggs. And I think at the end of episode 3, I'm sorry, at the end of episode, are we at 2 or 3 now?
We're at
2. We're at 2.
We're at 2. Yeah.
With the eggs.
Yeah.
2, which is called
2 is the passenger.
The Passenger.
The marshal, the passenger going into the heiress.
Now in the heiress, episode 3, he has to land because his ship is broken, and he lands on. Well, he doesn't have to land because the ship is broken. He has to land to deliver the girl. So I keep thinking that every episode starts with him having to land because the ship is broken. Turns out there's only one episode where he has to land.
Well, I mean, pretty much though, he had to land because the ship was broken, and he had to go there.
Right, but he was landing at the right place.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Intended destination.
Yes. So he lands there. Ship's all fucked up, and the beautiful moment with the egg lady and her husband, and then the husband says,
Oh, you know what they're called? Are they called Frog Lady and Frog Man? I think if you watch the credits, it's Frog Lady and Frog Man, and if you watch it with subtitles on, because they do it sometimes, because like they say stuff, it's like speaks in frog language or something. And I think it says Frog Lady, Frog Man, and
I don't speak frog.
Yeah,
he says that.
Yeah,
so yeah, Frog Lady and Frog, and then as it should be.
Why would you call them anything else? They don't have fucking names. There's Frog Lady, Frog Man.
Yeah, the extended universe got crazy over the years. They started naming these things, all kinds of stuff. You don't need it. You don't need it.
Don't.
Guy looks like a walrus is a walrus man.
That's right.
It doesn't need to be anything else.
Right.
So he goes to this bar where a guy is talking in a southern accent. There's like a squid. They call those guys Squid Man, I think, is what they used to call Squid Head or something. In the old days.
Mon Calamari?
Well, no, Mon Calamari is the Admiral Akbar.
Yeah.
Right. So he's like going to fix the ship. He's like, I've got it flying.
Right.
And then he goes into the bar, though, and there's squid heads. And who I guess are related to Mon Calamari, or I mean, they hang out because they're.
I think they are. Doesn't he say it like at the end of the episode? He's like, Mon Calamari, not Jesus Christ, but like unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Well, yeah,
Mon Calamari, unbelievable. I think it's just a whole planet that's lousy with these guys. They always seem like, because you see Admiral Akbar and you think that they're, these great noble people, and they're fucking vicious, piratey fucking bastards.
Well, those ones, but there aren't any Admiral Akbar style. The Mon Calamari that fixes his ship, and then he says, Mon Calamari, unbelievable. Like, that's an Admiral Akbar. But then the squid ones, are they also Mon Calamari? There's some, if there's a Star Wars nerd watching this
they're
right
maybe
now,
like they're cousins or something. They're getting too close. Like this kind of squid versus a little bit more squiddish. Like they look pretty much the same thing.
They're called Mon Calamari.
Calamari, there you go. I know, right? Right.
It's their official name.
Yeah, at some point, like someone looking over like George Lucas's shoulder, watching him go through this universe naming things, was like, "Fucking 5 years old? Fucking, what's wrong with you?" Do you think like George Lucas has ever eaten anything besides a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and like macaroni and cheese from the blue box? Just a simple,
no.
Basic bitch motherfucking guy. It's like blue milk, squid head, Mon Calamari, Hammerhead, Walrus Man. They live in the sand, so they're sand people. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? It's like the most creative mind to create this, like, story of another world and space and all this stuff that he's just come up with, and then he can't name anything creatively whatsoever. I spent it all on the other stuff. I've got no more creativity to give. Fucking sand people, Walrus Man, Hammerhead, shit. That's all I got. I'm tapped.
X-Wing.
Yeah, the wing's kind of going to X-Wing. Yeah.
TIE fighter. It looks like a little bow tie.
Yeah.
But,
asshole.
That's what it was. What it's called, a twin ion engine or whatever now. But
right.
At the time he was just like, they look like the little bow ties.
Right, right.
So, so we're on this planet. He goes to the thing where there's the squid heads, and they're pouring that weird shit, that soup that has a spider in every bowl, guaranteed, or your money back.
Right, right.
And Yoda, the joke's finally on Baby Yoda when he tries to eat that soup because that fucking thing starts to eat him.
Yeah.
Little squid thing.
And
he
no one's
tells him,
concerned
"Oh yeah,
at
you
all.
go out on this boat, and there's this Mon Calamari junk ship. Get out on that thing, and they'll take you to the Mandalorians." And I thought when they got on that, my first thought was, please don't have the rest of this episode take place on the high seas.
Right.
Like, please don't have a boat. I don't want a boat adventure in Star Wars. And that did not happen. I was very happy about it.
No, they were very quick.
Did you think that was a possibility?
Yeah, I didn't distrust them until he's like, "Come watch this thing eat. You gotta see it up close. Look over the edge."
A little further.
Like, oh shit, this is about to happen. Like right away, you get nervous. So, but no, they were on that ship for like 2 seconds.
Right, and then a moment where I'm pumping my fist as the Mandalorians come in and just kick fucking ass, get rid of all those guys in 2 seconds, get them out, and then I had not heard the 2 spoilers we talked about earlier, or the possible spoiler, the things that were heavily rumored were Boba Fett and Ahsoka. I have not heard anything about Bo-Katan. That was just something people would talk about. Like, we talked about it. We were like, Katie Sackhoff could play her. Like,
did we say that on a podcast, or was that in real life only? Because
possibly
I know
both.
we talked about that at length.
You know what? I think we probably talked about that on the Clone Wars podcast, that Katie Sackhoff could play Bo-Katan in The Mandalorian. Because she does the voice in the Clone Wars cartoon. She did the voice in Rebels. And they gave her the look. They gave her the kind of cartoony eyebrows. They kind of took her eyebrows and made them like pointy, gave her the hair and everything. My only question, but when she pulled
How did you
her helmet
feel
off,
when they landed? They did their shit. You're like, this is badass. And a couple of these are girls because the armor had boobs built in for them. And
also cancel culture got on that for a second too.
Well, I mean, you would want something to form fit to your body correctly if you were making armor that was perfect for your body. So why is that?
Apparently, a couple of people thought it was sexist. That it came.
It wasn't to show that they had boobs to make the thing sexy, but wouldn't you want room as a woman who needs to like have armor and move around and navigate?
As a man who has been sitting here during the COVID for however many months now, just getting fat and growing boobs, I can tell you that if I were to get some Beskar, I would appreciate a little room and a big fat stomach in my armor. And I don't think that would,
Or if they have Beskar that goes over like, your balls, like you'd want to like put a little circle in there so there's a little bit of room. You wouldn't want them squished into your body.
I couldn't understand why, because that if
it's not like they put nipples on the end of them.
Right.
But look, we don't have boobs, so we don't know. But I would guess them being smushed into your body because you've got this form-fitting armor would be a horrible thing.
Yeah, and I think it would also probably be called sexist if they did that too. So whoever said it was sexist to have the boob armor would have also said it's sexist to have. You know who's saying this is men.
I don't know. Yeah.
Men are the people that are saying this shit.
I don't know.
Whatever. But the point is, there was some 5-minute controversy about the boob armor. It went away because also.
But when she took the fucking mask off, Bill, the helmet off, I mean, did you know immediately that that's who it was?
Okay, well.
Or did it take you like a double take? Because I saw that and I'm like, oh, that was the best thing that had ever happened in the whole series so far. It was so awesome. It was such a huge moment that it's Bo-Katan and like, holy shit. They just brought in, they just officially have brought that whole universe into The Mandalorian.
What happened to me was the way I experienced it was like I was all like, "Fuck yeah!" Just that they showed up and were kicking ass because I love Mandalorians doing that. And then when they do it so well, I forget who directed that episode, but the shot goes behind.
I think it was
them.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
I think she directed the last one, the most recent
Carl
one.
Carl
Oh no,
Weathers was the
Carl
last
Weathers.
one.
You're right. So Bryce Dallas Howard directed this one.
She did.
Yeah,
and she's fucking good, by the way.
Her episodes are fucking great.
Yep.
So the camera goes behind them and you see them taking off the helmets. And I remember thinking, because we discussed this, I'm sure on the podcast and definitely in real life, that the Mandalorians in the Clone Wars cartoons were constantly taking off their helmets.
Yeah.
So it was like, what was this thing about you can't take it off? And we knew that it's like, obviously Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau know that they were taking their masks off all the time. So there would be a thing. So you see, so like they show it from behind and you see them taking their masks off for a second. And I was like, that was my first thing, is I was like, oh, we're finally going to find out like why,
right.
You know? So like that ran through my brain real quick. And then they turn around and you see her finishing it, and the red hair, the fucking headband, and Katie Sackhoff with her.
So I knew it was Bo-Katan before I knew it was also Katie Sackhoff playing her, because I'm like, that looks like her, but kind of doesn't look like her. Didn't scream Katie Sackhoff right away, because like the hair color, her face looks a little bit altered or a tiny bit different. It just didn't look like, I'm like, that's her, right? I'm pretty sure that's her. Is that her? Took me a second to like be 100% it was her. I knew it was clearly Bo-Katan Pros, because she had like the head thing and she had the red hair, like with the bob level haircut. So I'm like, all right, that's clearly Bo-Katan. That is Katie Sackhoff, right?
I think I just either knew, or if I didn't know for sure, I had just assumed that it would be her as soon as she took out the helmet. And said,
it was great. What a great
This
moment.
armor's been in my family for 3 generations.
Yeah, I was like, who are you telling me? Like, what the fuck? I actually fought in the Purge War, motherfucker. What did you do?
She fought in the fucking Clone Wars. She fought in the fucking Purge, which we one of those things that we can imagine, but we've never seen. But that's the one thing, just as a side note, because I want to get back to how awesome it was about Katie Sackhoff and Bo-Katan. I was trying to calculate her age, like, because she was in the Clone Wars. Like, I know she was young, but she was Satine's sister, right?
Was she young 20s, teens?
So I'm assuming
she's the younger sister, and it clearly by a lot, even back then.
Yeah. But she was like kind of like a little bit of a leader of like, she joined Death Watch for a little bit, and then she came back, and so I was trying to figure out. I was like, let's say she was like 23 or so at that point in the Clone Wars. Then you add 20 years to.
All right, but her and Ahsoka were about the same age, and Katie Sackhoff and Rosario Dawson, if that is who is going to play her, are probably about the same age.
Katie Sackhoff's 40. I looked up. I asked my Google Home immediately after that episode was over how old Katie Sackhoff actually is, but they make her look much older than that. She doesn't look, to me, she didn't look 40.
She looked older?
I thought so.
Every time I see her, like, I'm just mesmerized by her. I love her. So
she's awesome.
She just always is like some ageless beauty. Doesn't matter.
She's great. My son follows her on Instagram, and because he follows all the Battlestar Galactica people, and also he was commenting when we watched these episodes. Katie Sackhoff's so awesome.
She's so good.
He's shown me some of her posts, and she's a really she's clearly one of those people that's not just doing it for social media. Like, she's a good.
No, and what has she done like that has been big since Battlestar Galactica? There might be something I just don't know. But I don't think anything that's that big. So I'm really glad that she's going to get like that, second round of hopefully being in this and, put her where she belongs.
Yeah. I know she was on like a Netflix show, but I didn't think it'd do much. I think she's still just been the Battlestar Galactica, girl.
Right.
probably until now. So yeah, I mean, exactly what you said. I hope this will propel her again, and at least, if nothing else, I mean, everyone loved Bo-Katan and her portrayal of her in the cartoon, and now here she is in the flesh. And this is only the second time now that a cartoon character has been brought to the screen. The first was Saw Gerrera.
Oh, you know what? I thought this was the first time that had ever happened.
So did I.
It's not the first time that has ever happened.
I also thought it was the first time. I think I might have actually even texted you that it was the first time. And then
we were texting about it. Yeah, we both thought it was.
I remembered later that Saw Gerrera had been in the cartoon before he was in Rogue One. But that's also because Saw Gerrera was not a highly established character in the Clone Wars. He was in a few episodes.
Right.
He was, this guy who was real militant. And then, so when he's in Rogue One, it's like, oh, that makes sense. But you're not like, oh, that's that guy who has this deep, rich history throughout. Because Bo-Katan's also in Rebels.
Yeah,
like,
dude, she's
all over the place.
Yeah. Damn.
Now she gets life on screen.
She deserves it.
So she tells off Mando.
Yeah.
Or she didn't tell him. Well, she kind of does. She's condescending to him. But she says that...
Well, if someone's like, where did you get that armor? Real Mandalorians don't do this thing. She's like, you know what I mean? Like 3 generations old. I fought in the Purge War.
I was fucking born on a planet that...
I'm the heiress to the Mandalorian Empire. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right. You run around calling yourself a fucking Mandalorian. You've never even been there. I was born there. My family goes generations back with this armor.
Yeah.
I'll fucking determine the rules about helmets off, helmets on.
Which is also going to address like that thing of like, how long are they going to have this great actor, right? Pedro's a great actor.
Yeah.
Not be able to show his face and like use 90% of his acting tools. And then him as an actor, like how many seasons is he going to be in? He's like, can I just show my face a little bit, please? Can you guys find a way to write this in?
There was some rumor that he was going to fucking leave the show because they wouldn't let him show his face. It was
I sent you that. I had you vet it for me. Like, Bill, any truth to this? And then you ripped it up.
Completely made up. It's from I'm not even name.
But they're addressing it anyways. Clearly, he's going to get like they have to show up again. Like it's called the Mandalorian. He's got to interact with other Mandalorians. It's got to go back to him helping her probably get her empire back. I mean, who knows where they will take the show because there's been so many good side characters. You're like, I hope they come back and become a main character all the time.
Right.
Which they do in the very next episode after this. 2 people they left behind. You're like, they got to be bringing them back, right? All the time.
Well, Bo-Katan for sure is going to come back, I would think. I can't believe she would just come in for a cameo like that, because I think there is going to have to be some sort of arc of him kind of discovering, like, do I want to be a Mandalorian from The Watch, formerly Death Watch from the cartoons, or do I want to be a Mandalorian? Like, because in last season, Gina Carano tells somebody, she says, Mandalorian is not a race, it's a creed. But it is a race, and we knew that. And it was interesting that she had said that was kind of like a mysterious thing for her to say last year, remember? It's like, it's not a race, it's a creed. But
maybe it can be both. Maybe it can be both.
Sure, but I mean, there are Mandalorian people that are born there, and that's what they are. But
I mean, same with Jewish people, right? Like, it's a religion, and it's also people from a place. So
that's
Mandalorians are same type of deal.
It is a race, or
you and I can convert. You can do that.
Yeah, even though we aren't officially biologically.
Right, but you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good comparison. Also, a people who have been treated very badly over a long period of time, the Mandalorians.
Yeah, another group of people that people have been trying to kill forever.
Yeah,
Jesus.
So, on that note, I think Bo-Katan has to come back, because there's an interesting thing that happens, and maybe I'm reading too much into this. I don't know. This isn't something I read about. I just noticed it. Is he starts to take off. It's in the episode after he meets them and they take off their helmets all the time, where he pulls up his helmet in front of Baby Yoda enough to drink his soup.
Right.
And there's even a shot of Baby Yoda like going like, like trying to look at him. And I thought that even that much seems to be like a little bit more than he ever.
He's getting a little bit lax on the rolls a little bit.
Maybe.
At some point, a couple seasons on, that guy's going to have full mask off all the time in scenes. It's just
on and off.
It's just inevitable.
Right.
I think he'll end up going with them and turning his back to Death Watch.
Maybe there'll be some sort of conflict between them. There's so many places this can go, which is the only complaint I have about this fucking show is the show length, because they pack so much into 32 minutes or whatever they are. The first couple of them were longer. The one with Timothy Oliphant was like almost an hour.
It was like 47 minutes.
Well, the second one was like supposedly, again, something someone sent me and I didn't even open it. Just said Mandalorian. It's I don't have my phone in front of me, but the tech someone sent me. It was actually my mom sent me a link in a text that showed a little picture of Baby Yoda, and it said like some screen rant or whatever, and it said 45-minute episode running time of New Mandalorian gives clue as to
stop
something.
reading. Yeah,
and
stop reading.
I didn't read it.
Oh, you mean for this next episode, you're predicting it will be 45 minutes long?
This thing was Screen Rant was saying that it was 45 minutes, and that they said that was going to predict something, and I did not read any further to see what 45 minutes is supposedly going to predict.
Well, let's catch up into real time then, because that whole second half of that same episode, where we find out that we're still hunting the Darksaber.
Right. So she's still hunting the Darksaber from Moff Gideon. So they go to get all their weapons and fuck up that Imperial ship, which I love that there are all those Imperial holdovers.
Yeah.
That they, I think that's.
Yeah, it's awesome how he's willing to crash the ship.
Yeah.
Right.
Although he doesn't ever no British accent. So I wonder if he came on a little later. Or he's just
does
different part of the
Moff
galaxy.
Gideon have a British accent?
He has one of those sort of generic regal type accents.
That's just how he talks. He just does that.
Yeah. He also chimed in, Giancarlo Esposito, right? That's his name, right?
Yeah.
He chimed in about Baby Yoda eating the eggs, and he thought it was ludicrous that it was even thought of that way.
I love that guy. I would hate for him to be on the wrong side of anything. That's amazing.
He seems like the guy who always considers that might be the wrong side. You know what I mean? He just seems very, Breaking Bad. His who can forget his horrific death scene in Breaking Bad?
Best.
I still can't wipe that out of my mind. So he was willing. That guy was willing to crash the ship, and then when he can't crash the ship, and by the way, them icing stormtroopers through the hallways all the time.
Oh, it's so good.
Fucking Star Wars.
Talk about Star Wars porn. Just like a group of Mandalorians going through and just eviscerating a bunch of stormtroopers that just have no chance in hell. Yeah, so good to see it happen.
There's so many references in this show to them not being able to shoot straight, because the Mandalorian, when Katie Sackhoff, when Bo-Katan's telling the Mandalorian what they're going to do, we're going to get this ship at first light because that's when it runs and blah, blah, blah. And there's a few stormtroopers on board, and the one guy's and they couldn't hit the broadside of a Banta.
That's right. That's right.
How many times can you mention how I like that it's become a thing in the in-universe where it's we know they can't shoot straight.
It also really made me start thinking again about how ridiculous the Stormtrooper armor really is. Because you have these Mandalorians and they have armor, and it's very fucking effective armor because it could deflect blasters, right? But you just shoot them through this millimeter inch thick plastic, and they just fucking die immediately. Like that
Yeah,
armor
it's
is
never-
doing nothing. It does nothing.
I've never seen anything in Star Wars where a stormtrooper's armor paid off.
Never. It never pays off ever. And then the helmets they can't see, so they shoot like shit. You can see like when they show the Mandalorians, like they throw the smoke, and then they can see like the heat signature readout, and they're just shooting everybody, and like they're just in these plastic walking coffins. You can't do anything in. It doesn't protect you from anything at all. I mean, it looks scary. So I could see like it looks cool. It looks scary. It's intimidating. So I guess it does that, but not if you know any better and you can actually shoot a gun.
And it's and you know you can hide your identity, I guess.
Sure.
If that's important.
You go home at night and take the uniform off and walk around town, and
you
no
can
one's pissed at you.
You can go to another job and no one's like, you know, oh, he's in the Imperial Navy or whatever.
At this point, by the way, side note, at this point in the show, they're not clones anymore, right?
No, they're not clones anymore.
None of them.
No.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
One thing, I guess, in Force Awakens, Finn does say that their masks can filter out smoke, not toxins. So I guess that's one thing, is like after they've blown open a door, like in Episode 4, and they you know, they're in there shooting the guys. No problems with that smoke.
Okay.
That's
I mean, they can't see through it, and they got shot.
They're just not breathing it in. That's all. That's all it's protecting them from. They can't see through it. They can't shoot anyway. It's, you know, a fucking mess, but at least they're not breathing it in.
Yeah. Shit.
So.
Oh yeah. So Darksaber.
But that guy kills himself. So Katie Sackhoff takes that guy and is like, if you tell me where the Darksaber is, I won't kill you. And he's like, yeah, but he will. And he fucking cyanides himself, like electric cyanide.
Yeah.
Kills
that was
himself.
Cool. Yeah. And that actor is very familiar to me from a bunch of things, and I don't know
He's
what.
From something, yeah. Or more than
right away, I'm like,
something.
oh, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
What I have forgotten, I haven't seen those episodes of the Clone Wars for a long time. What is the significance of the Darksaber? Why is that so important? It's like she cannot like claim her empire without that.
Right.
You have to have that.
In order to, because remember Darth Maul went through all kinds of shit to get it.
Yeah, but
so that he could rule Mandalore.
But you have to have it to rule Mandalore. Like, well, you don't have it, even though we know you're the rightful heir, and we'll still.
No,
or is it because like there's so many factions? Because like she does say again, like it's clear that the Mandalorians are very, very splintered, and it's like Mandalorians are stronger together. In the Clone Wars, obviously there's Civil War, that whole era. So like, is she just thinking it's a symbolic gesture to have it, and it will help reunite all the different clans and factions together so they're not fighting each other? And she's proven like, look, I have the goddamn sword. I'm good enough to have this thing. Or is it like, it's like the fucking rules in their constitution or something?
No, I think it's like the rules in their constitution.
Is it even that good of a sword? I mean, yeah, like we saw him cut himself out of the crashed TIE fighter with it when Moff Gideon had it, the end of season 1, right? Like,
yeah.
That's when you first see it.
Right.
But like, I mean, is it better than like a run-of-the-mill, anything in Star Wars?
Yeah, I think it's
Can it cut through a lightsaber? It's so fucking powerful.
Well, no, because it's been used in lightsaber duels.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it holds anything over on a lightsaber. I think it's just it hangs with it just like any other lightsaber, I think.
So she wants to use it as a thing to unite all the different people. Rally behind the Darksaber.
I am looking at the at a Darksaber Wikipedia, which is to be trusted. They are to be trusted, dude. These guys and gals over at Wikipedia, they don't put shit up there if it's not true. And if it's not true or something, they'll put an asterisk all over it. So apparently, I'm not seeing if you have to have it.
Because she's been chasing this thing down at this point for like over a decade. So at some point, it's like, there's got to be another way to unite your people. Can you start working on like plan B? Right?
Well, it says here
It's been a long time.
After the Great Purge, the Empire desecrated Mandalore and Bo-Katan lost possession of the Darksaber. She fled the planet, but continued to lead the Night Owls, her little group, and was intent on eventually reclaiming the Darksaber and Mandalore. By circa 9 years after the Battle of Yavin, the weapon had fallen into the hands of Moff Gideon. So, and it's also been owned by previous owners, Tar Vizsla, Pre Vizsla, Darth Maul, Kanan Jarrus, briefly, Sabine Wren, Bo-Katan, and now Gideon.
Wow.
So Clan Vizsla, Darth Maul, then Kanan had it for a second because he gave it to Sabine. And then,
Right.
I remember that episode of Rebels, it was like Sabine was going to rule Mandalore, and she gave it to Bo-Katan.
And then she lost it again.
Well, she didn't lose it. The fucking asshole blew up the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's not like she didn't just... But she
Right,
never
she didn't
possessed
misplace it. She didn't misplace it. I know that.
But she never possessed it to begin with.
She didn't?
Mm-mm. Not according to this chain of custody.
Her family had it, though.
Well, I don't know if she was part of the Clan Vizsla. That I'd have to go back and there's such a intricate weaving of story around those Clan Vizslas and all the Clan Ren, Clan this and Death Watch and all.
Well, I mean, all right. So did her sister have it when she was ruling Mandalore?
I guess not, because it didn't say that in there. So maybe you don't need it.
It seems
somebody leave a comment.
I mean, you want to talk about side missions? She spent 10 years not reuniting, the people from her planet because she thinks she needs to have the Darksaber first to do it. It's what it seems like to me.
I think it's, if nothing else, it's the ultimate symbolic
all right.
possession to.
Which is weird because they don't use any other kind of sabers.
No, then there's just one of them. That's it. There's
I know. Yeah. Just weird that a saber would lead them versus like her special armor or something like that, which is very Mandalorian.
Well, there was a conversation that took place with Kanan Jarrus at one point where someone said, I didn't know Mandalorians developed a type of lightsaber. That's what he said. And the answer from Fen Rao, again, one of those so many Mandalorians, was, we didn't. This was one of a kind. Legend tells it was created over 1,000 years ago by Tar Vizsla, the first Mandalorian ever inducted into the Jedi Order. After his passing, the Jedi kept the saber in their temple. That was until members of House Vizsla snuck in and liberated it. They used the saber to unify the people and strike down those who would oppose them. At one time, they ruled all of Mandalore wielding this blade. The saber is an important symbol to that house and respected by all the other clans.
So there you go. She is using it to unite them. Okay, gotcha.
It's the ultimate symbolism. Their big war with their ancient war with the Jedi. It was like they had that, and the Jedi had everything else, and they fucking fought them off.
Well, look, we're gonna see them again. Thank God.
With guile and a dark saber.
And they're also moving together, right? Because if you go into the next episode, Gideon is hot on the Mando's trail, clearly.
Yeah.
And she's trying to find Gideon. So clearly they're going to be meeting again, probably very soon.
I have a feeling, Charlie, we're going to get. And, as the great Ken Knapsack, one of the great Star Wars fans, always likes to say, Charlie, speculate responsibly.
Right.
Excited,
Yeah.
Speculating good. Responsibly.
Yeah.
I think that there is going to be a massive confluence of Moff Gideon, Ahsoka, the Mandalorian, the Bo-Katan Night Owls.
Wow.
And maybe even Boba Fett pops in for a look. But at least those four, because it seems like they're all converging. He's going to find Ahsoka now, because Bo-Katan tells him, he says, oh, and Bo-Katan gives Yoda quite a few looks. I don't remember if she's ever met Yoda, like officially one-to-one, like a nice to meet you in the Clone Wars, but she
certainly would have known of him at that point.
And she gives him a couple of like, curious looks. So I'm thinking, she knows what that is. So she tells Mandalorian, here's where you got to go to get your Jedi, and you will find Ahsoka Tano. And then obviously he has to stop to fix his ship. And that is when the episode of that whoever said just should have been called The Side Mission happens.
Well,
look at how they did her eyebrows.
The funniest thing, the funniest thing ever is that the end of The Side Mission possibly ties into the main story more than anything that has ever happened in The Mandalorian. So I don't know how you could say that.
The whole
that ending is incredible. Like, you can move through the rest of that plot of that, but we need to talk about the end there, because I'm still like, that's the one thing like I've been thinking about all the time. Like, the other episodes were cool, and like they're here and they're back and stuff. But as far as speculating, like, what the fuck is that, and where are they going with this, and starting to think about all the different story arcs that they could tie into, and what are they trying to do with this. This is the one episode where I've thought about it the most afterwards.
Same. Okay, so yeah, we don't really, the episode, he needs to fix his ship, goes back to Navarro, things are much better, there's a school where they're eating macaroons all the time. Now Horatio Sands is a clerk working 350 years off of his deal.
Right.
Gina Carano's the marshal, she's kicking ass, taking names.
They built a school, and Ray maybe was at the school.
There was a
girl
little
that
Ray.
had the hair exactly the same.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, like, if it seems like it is, it probably is. So is that supposed to be Ray?
Think, dude, you know what? Now that I think about it, that could have maybe have been Ray. I don't remember. I don't think it. I think she just had that hairstyle. I think that is one of the few cases where it just looks like it looks.
Yeah.
I think that was just a girl with the cute Ray hairstyle, but I don't know, dude. You never know. Maybe she spent some time on that planet. We know she
exact color hair and stuff, though. Like,
yeah, I mean,
could have done it on a girl with like blonde hair or like jet black hair or something. Why do they have to pick the same colors? Or is it just like a wink? Like, I
think it was just like a wink, but I'm not telling you that you're stupid for saying that, or whatever the fuck I said to you about the sail barge.
All you said was, I don't know, which is as close to Bill Cleare's speech for, dude, fuck off. Is it? I don't know. I don't know.
So that would be really nice. People thought,
I don't know.
I don't know. Bill really got fucking pissed at me the other day. Why would he say? He was like, yeah, I don't know. He mildly suggested that I might be wrong. But okay, so they do that. And then Carl Weathers says they leave the kid at the school. Let me tell you one quick little issue. One more thing. I don't mean to be negative about the show, because I fucking love it. Mm-hmm. This is not my only Mandalorian shirt. There's a Mandalorian poster over there. There's a Mandalorian bobblehead. I love it. Mm-hmm. But one thing that bothers me about the length is this episode, up until we got to the end, I was like, what time frame is happening here? Because it's like they put Baby Yoda in the school, let's go talk some business. But then they're like, well, let's go take off to this place. And they're in a land speeder. And then they have this whole mission of blowing these guys up and stuff. And then
it turned in like, we got to talk real quick, to like full-blown mission.
Yeah, and it was like, well, when they got back, did the droid just say, yeah, stay here until everyone gets back? Or
well, also, what also didn't make sense to me was like, it was supposed to be some abandoned base. So like, why was it a big deal to get there and go blow it up? Why was that such a big deal?
Because they had weapons there. If I understand correctly, and I often don't, they had weapons there, and they wanted to get whoever was still stationed on there dead. And then there was weapons there that they thought would be raided and used for the black market. So they wanted to get rid of those, because Mandalorian at one point, like Horatio Sands, the alien, says, oh, you know how much this would go for on the black market? And Mandalorian's like, it's all
Right.
going to be melted down to scrap.
Right.
You know, so it's like that's their plan. And then they didn't realize there were that many stormtroopers there because they didn't know that it was an operational facility still.
Right.
So they blew up a bunch of stuff. Anyway, I'm just saying that if the show was a little bit longer, they kind of could have let it breathe a little bit, and then you kind of would have known, like, all right, this is when they're doing this, and sort of like.
But
Baby
also,
Yoda's
isn't
not
that
just
like
sitting in a
base is
classroom
like
the whole time?
5 minutes away from where they had the standoff with Moff Gideon at the end of season 1 with all the stormtroopers and stuff? So then they just like went, 20 miles away down a fucking canyon, built a gigantic base, and then they're all still there. They're just letting them build this school and think that
No,
they're free
I
from the
don't.
Empire there.
No, because she shows a map, and it's like it's not close.
I mean, it's within speeder distance, so it's not.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
not
not
like
around the
other side
fucking
of
corner, Bill, but it's not. It's 20 miles away. I mean, what?
I don't know, whatever. So yeah, fine. But they do all that. They ice a bunch of stormtroopers. It's fun. It's all kinds of cool action. Star Wars hallway shooting is always great. Then
Always.
they get into. I mean, for real though.
Yeah. Yes. Totally. Yes.
Ducking around the corners and stormtroopers. Then they get into that room. You don't see that there's a bunch of lab tubes first, but you see two guys who are clearly like the stuff they're working on at their computer cannot be taken. So they're like,
because they have guns and they're like, purge the data, purge the system, and they're shooting that instead of at them. Like, can you imagine if you had a gun and there's people coming at you, and it's more important to shoot the computer terminals to purge the data than it is to like try to defend your life?
Yeah. It's serious shit. And then so they kill those guys, but I guess they left some of.
This isn't a weapon station. This is a laboratory.
That's no moon.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know how much of the drive they destroyed, but Horatio Sands is able to call up the hologram of that guy, the scientist from the first few episodes, who worked for Werner Herzog, is now telling Moff Gideon like weird stuff. So basically, right, like and guide me along wherever I'm misinterpreting things or overreaching or underreaching.
Talking about the test. Go ahead.
Taking they call it an M count, which obviously means midi-chlorian count. They're taking blood, the baby Yoda blood that he got, and putting it into living beings. And for a fortnight is what he says.
What do they call him? Not. They say the donor, but then no, the volunteer. The volunteer.
But when he says the volunteer hasn't done it yet, because he says I fear.
It did. It
he says I fear
blood.
that the same will happen to the volunteer.
Oh, as the last volunteer, probably.
Yeah.
Where
so
it rejects
whoever's
the
in
blood,
there,
right?
Yeah. So whoever's in there and has been dying, because he says like they do really well for a fortnight. That's what he says, and then they fucking die or whatever, and they put them in those Bacta tanks. He says the volunteer. He's afraid that the same thing will happen with the volunteer, and then outside of that, he's going to need more blood to be able to test on more people. So I don't know if everyone's a volunteer, or they're just grabbing random people and shooting them up with the.
I mean, it would make you think that they have to be somewhat like force sensitive to do something like that. Because then also, like, it's going to the bigger story. Is like, okay, well, why are they trying to do this? And is it to see maybe? All right, so you could say like one, Moff Gideon wants because he's in charge of the Empire now, and there's no one there with any force power, so he wants to infuse it into himself.
That could be too.
So that he could be like, he's got a dark saber, and then he wants to have Jedi powers. That's one. But two, like we're starting to get into the timeline of where the Emperor clearly was creating Snoke and Bacta tubes, or But I mean, he himself might be dead, so maybe Gideon is bringing the Emperor to life first, and then the Emperor will do that to his first apprentice, Snoke. Who knows? But it's clear, like, that whatever they're doing is got to be leading to that chain of events. Whether or not they're actually, like, in the Mando going to have Moff Gideon recreate the Emperor in a back to tube with Force juice, maybe not, but it's clear, like, it's going to set off like a chain reaction, right? That does lead to that.
Well, the body that they show in the back of the tank has like a thing in its head. I did watch a couple of YouTube videos from my trusted friends.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same setup, right? It's like these people in these tanks that are clearly dead that are in different forms of, like, development.
Well, I mean, I think because in Rise of Skywalker, there's a tube full of Snokes.
Right.
So I think,
yes, exactly.
I don't think so much that he would be going to the Emperor level. I think he would probably either he's trying to create Snokes or trying to test out, like you
Well,
said,
the Emperor says he created Snoke.
Right.
So he has to be alive first. The Emperor has to be alive before Snoke is alive, and he created him.
Well, according to the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker, the Emperor did die at the end of Return of the Jedi, but he was able to, because of the Darth Sidious thing that he had been studying forever, he was able to project himself into another body, and then those bodies kept breaking down, and they kept having to, like, reclone him and shit to keep him alive. That's why he's all fucked up. And then they don't really get into how Snoke was made out of that. But somehow, you know, he was able to create this other being that could be like a proxy for him. So
I mean, it could be a red herring, right? Because that's where everyone would jump to, and it really might just be Gideon wanting it for himself, and that's it. And they're not going to take it any further.
Because we had talked about, when we first talked about this episode over text, I said, do you think the fucking haters will get pissed off if they start going down the leading to anything related to the sequel trilogy?
No.
And you said if they bob and weave around it in a certain way, they could pull it off, which is probably...
Not only that, but Disney does know that, like, those movies are very, very 50-50. Like, a lot of people hate them. A lot of people love them, but a lot of people hate them. And Mando is pretty universal.
Yeah.
So it could really bring credibility to the sequels. The 7, 8, 9, you know?
I think if, as you had said via text, if it weaves its way through it a little bit, it can do that.
Just enough, right? Where it's never main story, but it hits a couple main plot points. And, like, okay, because, like, a lot of people had, like, how the fuck is the Emperor back? What the fuck is going on? Like, if they just can go back and undo and redo anything, then what's the point of having anything happen? If you can just easily undo it. But if I don't know, if you have a whole plot line of how it happened and you see the chain of events that led to that, and it's from a show like The Mandalorian, maybe it, you know, warms people up to the sequels a little more, and, like, they don't mind them as much, and they can kind of win over some of the haters with that. It's very much in Disney's interest to do that. Like, the more people that are okay with the entire Star Wars arc is always going to be better for them.
Oh, totally.
And this show is like the ambassador to the Star Wars universe right now. Everybody loves Mando.
Yeah.
So they could throw a little bit of their shine on it.
It's, you know, Mandalorian is become like Star Wars itself, in that there's people that know who Baby Yoda is who have never seen The Mandalorian and never will.
Right.
It's like there's people who know everyone who knows who fucking Darth Vader is.
Right.
But there's tons of people who know who Chewbacca is who have never seen Star Wars and never will.
Right.
So it has that, like, that Star Wars spell thing going for it. But I think if they can touch on certain things and, like, place them in there without ever having it be like, all right, this season we're gonna have 4 episodes about how the Emperor came back, I think that would turn people off that hate it.
I don't think unless they did a bad job of it, I doubt it. It would be hard for anyone to get turned off to the show unless they just took big liberties. But like at this point, everyone trusts Dave Filoni. Like he's true to the. I don't think he would do it. If anything, he would be the one that is saying no to it.
I think he would be, because he's very hands-off of those sequel movies, dude.
He doesn't want to touch them. He feels like he's not allowed to.
He's just never had it's like everything that's orbited around the Star Wars in the Star Wars universe from Disney since they took over. It has had his hands on it at some point.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, man,
except those.
The Clone Wars cartoons had major characters in it the whole time, moving them from point A to point B between different movies. And it did actually give backstory to plot points, and there are things that were established in there that makes the movies make more sense. So why couldn't you do that with the sequels as well?
Well, a lot of people
he did it better than anyone. He was great at weaving in and out of it, right?
Oh yeah. And then
he's amazing at it. So why would you not do that here?
If anyone can do it, he can do it, because it's like there's many people, and I think you are amongst these people, but there's to an extent, but there's people who, well, no, I think you have said that those, and I would agree that the Clone Wars cartoon makes the prequels better.
They do.
But there's a lot
and
of
the Mando could make the sequels better.
Possibly, maybe, yeah, I guess. I mean, there are people who have said that they didn't like the prequels until they watched all of Clone Wars, and then it was like, okay, I accept these now.
Absolutely.
To the point
it makes a little more sense. Okay, now I have more context.
Yeah, and you start to get more used to battle droids and like everybody's relationship and you know, the trade, all of it. And you get the whole Mandalorian side story happens that whole time too. Yeah, I mean, it makes them better. It's like how Rogue One makes Star Wars a better movie.
Yeah, it makes sense that Filoni is so, obviously involved in this for a billion reasons, but it always did feel like the whole Mandalorian plot line like suffered because it's like, all right, well, look, things are happening in the movies and we have to kind of adjust to it, and we have to, you know, run parallel to the main plot line. So maybe there was not enough time to get into all the Mandalorian stuff that they could have. But it seemed like at one point it could have gone totally just into the Mandalorian world, and they could have stayed there for a long time and just never come back, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he went deep into it.
Way deep.
Yeah.
I mean, all that stuff I was reading all comes from the show. Like, those people didn't make that shit up, you know? And it like, if you think about how far back the Mandalorian plotline started in the Clone Wars cartoon, that stuff came from George Lucas.
Yeah.
Like, Jon Favreau's Mandalorian character in the Clone Wars, his name is Pre-Vizsla, because him and George Lucas loved the pre-visualization technique.
Right.
His fucking name is Pre-Vizsla.
That's another one of those things.
With the names. John's into, you know.
But like, this is allowing Filoni to tie back into that storyline that he was kind of into. Not, I wouldn't say he abandoned it, but
they
he
brought
can
it
tie back to that
Rebels.
story. He's been telling that story for a long time now, and maybe he can finally put like a finish to it.
I hope there's no finish in sight for a long time, Charlie, with this.
Well, at least that part of the arc with
No, I know.
and all that.
That part of it.
Mandalorian can go off and do other stuff, but like, could he set it right for them? Do they have a queen again? You know, who knows? Anyways,
do you think it might end up eventually where, I don't know, who can know? I was going to ask you if you would think maybe it would end up eventually with Mandalorian like becoming part of that and like a whole battle of Mandalore again. But like right now, in front of our eyes, the next episode, it's supposedly, I don't know if this is verified, but it's supposedly called The Jedi.
Well, I think I saw that too.
Which is,
and hopefully it's because Ahsoka's there.
Obviously, one would assume it's Ahsoka, or it's some trick title to make, you know, when he's looking for the Jedi.
But I mean, if you look at the titles of each episode, like the Marshal has the Marshal in it, the Passenger is the lady with eggs, the heiress is Bo-Katan. Like the siege is a fucking siege of a thing. They've never done like a red herring like episode title.
I was gonna say that too. Every episode has contained what the title has suggested it would.
Yeah.
So I think this next episode is Ahsoka. A lot of people are saying, and I hope that this is not true, that they'll wait. You talked about that.
I would say I hope. I said maybe they hope not. Like don't do this thing where we know she's coming and we have to anticipate it for 3.5 more episodes.
It's like is it going to be like a Darksaber thing where she pops out at the at the very, very last shot of the first season was the Darksaber. It's like, oh God, here's a whole other thing. But that's a different type of cliffhanger. Like she's a fucking character who's gonna have to, like, at some point, there has to be some sort of connection with Baby Yoda where he's not just carrying the thing around saying, I don't know what it is.
Right. And maybe the show is not going to be the child story arc forever either.
That has been suggested too. And that's something I've thought
how
about.
How long, like, because it takes them so long to age, like how long are you going to be just dragging this kid through space and we're like, it's not cute anymore.
Right. And they're probably wondering if they were thinking that in the beginning, right? Before they had any idea that this thing was going to become so popular. We're like, all right, we're going to have this Baby Yoda and it's going to do this the first season and then the second season. And then by the third season, it'll be on its way with Ahsoka. Like, what do they do at that point with the popularity of Baby Yoda? Do they just rely on the fact that this is a fucking awesome show and it doesn't need to have him all the time?
Well, no, you've got Bo-Katan and you've got fucking Ahsoka Tano. Like, I mean, I love the Baby Yoda thing. I love the Baby Yoda thing. But I'm just saying, like, either one of those by themselves is enough to carry a show for me.
Well,
much less the Mandalorian or any of the rest of it. They could just follow Ahsoka Tano around, drinking tea and thinking about shit. But
same.
But now they've got all of them. There could be whole scenes working on bikes. There could be whole scenes where it's like, Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano talking, and it's like, this could have been pulled right out of Clone Wars. You're just getting to see a live action version of it.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome.
This show is such a godsend in this from Star Wars, because it's like, I liked the sequel trilogy fine. I think they're fine. Like, I like them for what they are. I loved Rogue One, but, I loved it. Solo was like, that's cool. Like, all right, it's like kind of like a mini series type of thing, but it didn't do it for me. Great to have the last season of the Clone Wars. It was fucking excellent. But this is like, gives me the Star Wars feels to the bone, So it's like, this show pulling all of that stuff out of that lore, rather than, I mean, like, I know, like, I don't know if Obi-Wan Kenobi's ever going to fucking come out with COVID and all that stuff. God knows when that show will ever see the light of day. But, that it will be awesome. But it's going to be from Obi-Wan Kenobi from the movies that we know, like Rogue One was, where like Rogue One was characters like Tarkin and all this Death Star that we knew from the movies. But this is pulling all that stuff that, like, we were so immersed in the Clone Wars and like binging that show and binging Rebels and watching all that stuff, and then the books, even to get the Marshall from the books and all of that to be paid off, and now we get to see that play out. And if you didn't watch that stuff and if you've never read a book, it doesn't fucking matter, because they never make it to where it's like, who's this fucking red-headed Mandalorian? I didn't watch any cartoons.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, she shows up, she tells you who she is, and everything else they take care of in the context of the show. You never need to worry about, oh, that Marshall was from a book. I didn't even fucking remember that he was from that book forever.
I didn't read the book, so this episode's horrible. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
Timothy Oliphant is all you need to know. This guy's been Timothy Oliphant.
Like, this guy's from a book, I can tell. Click.
Do you get the sense that maybe the first season of The Mandalorian was like do a Star Wars show. Don't touch any of the main characters or main plot points or anything. Just be independent of that. And that's kind of their guiding order. And then it was so fucking popular. Like, well, maybe you could put a little bit in. And then like, maybe a little bit more. This thing is really like, I mean, look, like you think of like, since they bought Star Wars, like half the fans hate it, half of them love it, but like there's still like people fighting about it. They have this giant Disneyland Star Wars area that like kind of was a flop in the beginning, supposedly.
Yeah, I guess.
Depends on how you read the news on that. Like it wasn't doing as well and wasn't selling the tickets. If they have one area of Star Wars which is just unanimously like a big deal, you wonder if they start even pressuring them, hey, work a little bit in and see if you can tie in some of the prequel stuff to this so that people like it more. You could see them wanting to do that. It would make sense for them.
I can totally see it, but I feel like Jon Favreau probably, like, even when he signed on, is probably
I'm sure
like the power of no. You know what I mean? Like to just be like,
sure,
no, not putting fucking Snoke in this, or we will, you know, well, no, we actually do want to put a little Snoke string in there, you know, or something like that. I feel like they have this show mapped out for like 4 seasons already.
Oh, and then before I forget, so there's the back to tank, but then at the very, very last scene with Gideon, there's a row of 2 sides of like Darth Vader looking armor.
So those guys I was looking up, and apparently there were similar stormtroopers to that in Rebels.
Death Troopers?
They were like, the Death Troopers are like the ones that from Rogue One. And they did have him actually in Mandalorian in the last episode of season 1. But apparently these things are like super Death Troopers or something.
Yeah, but what's the deal? Like, why are they just sitting there? It's not just their uniforms. Are they in there? Are they like dead and reanimated? Maybe that's what they're building with the...
Maybe they were trying to make Force stormtroopers. You get it.
You wouldn't do that if you didn't have the Force yourself, right?
But if that thing works and you inject Baby Yoda's blood into somebody, and then they become Force being, and then you stick them into one of those suits, and they're like fucking super Force troopers. Terrifying. Wielding lightsabers and shit.
Yeah, but also if you were like reanimating the Emperor or Snoke, you would think to put them in a Darth Vader suit to keep them alive, like Darth Vader had to be kept alive.
Right. Even Moff Gideon wears a sort of like keep alive type thing. I don't think that's what it's actually for, but it's.
I think it's more for look because he doesn't appear to be a Force user.
No.
And like the Emperor and the Empire has always revolved around there being a central figure that had it, so he wants to look like a little bit Darth Vader-ish, probably.
Maybe he ultimately turns into be Snoke. You know.
Gideon turns into Snoke?
Maybe.
Oh, come on.
Well, the Emperor says he made him. It's like he doesn't necessarily made him from scratch. Well, no, I guess he did because he's got all those heads in the bin.
Yeah, he's got like spare parts. Got like a box of arms and a couple noses and one.
Hey, dude, according to the novelization, they fucking need those things often. Because shit's falling off the guy all the time. They gotta like put they're taping noses on him and stuff. Like he's almost out of it.
Yeah.
In the book, and they should have put this in that goddamn movie. In the book, he's like telling like Kylo Ren that like you gotta hurry up and do my bidding and he's telling like the general and stuff like you gotta hurry up because I'm running out of tricks. Like even with all my power and stuff, I've been sitting here getting taped together like Frankenstein's monster for 30 years. Like even I will die eventually.
I look at that thing behind your head. Like that is definitely something that looks like is rejecting the blood.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like we always speculated why was he so fucked up looking, and well, if he was an experiment, gone slightly awry, but enough to work.
Yeah, I mean, even the Emperor himself at the end of the movie was connected to some giant arm that was just moving him around. Like it clearly wasn't working out very well. So
no, dude, he was almost done. Yeah, he was almost done. It wasn't until the dyad. But that's
So, anyways,
that's a whole other thing.
Maybe they get into that. Maybe they don't at all. I doubt it's like that much. Even if it's kind of a red herring that yes, they're not rebuilding, they're not studying to do this so he can figure out a way to bring the Emperor to life. However, Gideon is like long live the Empire, like kill yourself type of guy. So maybe he really is like doing anything he can to bring the Emperor back. Like clearly he's a fanatic, crazy kind of guy that way.
And maybe he starts up the First Order.
Right. Sure.
You know?
But either way, either what he does is directly trying to do it, or it will eventually lead to that happening because he figured something out. One way or another, it has to tie somehow. If it doesn't, that's just stupid.
No, it'll tie somehow. I think they'll be very smart with how they tie it. I think they won't go overboard and say, all right, we're going to just turn this into the prequel to the sequel. But they'll, you know, like you said, they'll bob and weave around things that they'll hit enough points to maybe, like you said, lend more credibility, lend more acceptability to those movies, make people like them more.
Is this your next episode, most anticipated episode ever?
Yeah. Fuck, I can't. You know what? I was thinking earlier before we started, when we were just before we started the podcast, I was thinking about how the next episode I feel like is a Star Wars movie coming out.
I know. It's exciting.
It's the first I felt like that since a movie, probably even since The Last Jedi. Because Rise of Skywalker I was very excited about, but I pretty much, I didn't have any spoilers, but I knew it was gonna, like, you know, everyone's gonna end up happy. There'll be a big battle. Maybe we'll see some Force ghosts, maybe not.
Right.
But this, like, the anticipation of this not knowing, just, and all of the possibilities, but knowing enough to know that, like, it's, you know, it's
plus, like, Ahsoka has, like, throughout the arc of all the Clone Wars stuff and everything that's happened, and that coming back for the, you know, last couple seasons, she's like she's one of the top Jedis now, fan-wise, right? Like, people love her.
People's favorite Star Wars characters.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's never even been. So let me ask you. Let's wrap up. I got to ask you a couple things to wrap it up, and the first is about Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, let me ask you about Ahsoka last. Let me ask you this: What do you envision seeing the season end at, and what would you like to see it end at? Or
I think that they're going to get Baby Yoda. They are going to get him, so that they can do whatever they're trying to do with him. And they are going to start doing that. I do think that it will be like an ensemble of the good guys that are all for different reasons going after Gideon anyways, right? Like, Mandalorians are going to be there, and Gina Carano, and it's going to be like some kind of standoff. They're going to get him, and they're going to be, next season is trying to get Baby Yoda back.
Yeah, I think that's probably done.
But whatever they're using him for, they'll shed light on what that is. So we'll know what they're doing exactly.
I don't think we'll know that probably till next season.
No, I think we'll get a sense of it because they're going to get Baby Yoda. I'm telling you right now.
Oh, for sure. I totally 100% agree. They're going to get him.
But then Ahsoka, is she going to be there and just gone? Like in one episode and come back 4 episodes later type of thing? Or is she going to be like in 2 or 3 episodes in a row? Because, like, you could see him hanging with her and trying to do stuff. But then also you could see him going with Bo-Katan, and I don't know that the 3 of them are, like, together all the time either. I think it's going to stay the Mandalorian, and I think those guys will pop it back in or out. But you could see that it's a delicate balance. If you have Bo-Katan or Kylo Ren, holy shit, Ahsoka Tano in it too much, they'll take the show. You'll want to see Ahsoka more than you're going to want to see him. She'll run off with the show. Bo-Katan could do the same thing. Where you're like, all right, I get it. He's sensitive and he's figuring out his Mandalorian ways, and it stops becoming that gunslinger show of him meeting interesting people and killing them, and interesting characters that he teams up with for a little bit, but then he rides off into the sunset, and then it's a new adventure all the time. The show totally changes if you do that. So maybe they're doing a Marvel thing where Bo-Katan, she goes off, and now you have a whole sideshow you could build off of that. So Katano, she could go off and do her own thing, and now you've got two sideshows right there, all interconnecting and intertwining like Marvel does.
Yeah.
But if you have all three of them, Ahsoka's going to take the show away.
So that was going to be my next question to you was, what happens if it's Rosario Dawson or someone? We know it can't be Ashley Eckstein. She just doesn't look anything. There's nothing you could do unless you just fully CG'd her. Assume it is Rosario Dawson. Fan casting,
which is amazing casting. Like, that's perfect.
Well, and it literally, people for years have been saying,
that.
Yeah. So it's like, it's got to be her. But what if there's two possibilities? It's like, A, what if she doesn't work like as a live action character?
Not possible.
And then
it's just not even possible. With who's producing and writing and the effects that they can do, and she's a great actress. Like, she's universally loved, pretty much. It's impossible. It's not going to happen.
And Dave Filoni, I think, thinks of Ahsoka as an actual daughter.
I'm sure he does. So, like, he would lord over that part with her, and like, no, she wouldn't do this. Yes, she would do this. There's no way that it doesn't work. Zero chance. 0.0% chance.
So, okay, this next episode is also written and directed by him. So
Filoni this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking butterflies in my stomach for this dude. But let me ask you, so my last question then.
It's his baby.
If she does work, assuming she does, which I agree with you, she will. As you were talking about, does she just over fucking shadow everything, and then you're just like, fuck this? When's the Ahsoka show coming?
I know. Yes. Yeah.
Great gunslinger, Baby Yoda, whatever.
They'll either have to use her so sparingly that you just get like just a little bit of it, but like you'll always be like, when is she going to come back? They're going to have to figure something out.
That's going to be.
It is a little bit of Pandora's box, because like I love the Mando, and I love him with Baby Yoda, and right now that's the story. It could go a million different places. Maybe they'll be smart and just stay true to that. But like once you open that, and like knowing you could see more of that if they just decided to do it, you could see people getting frustrated with like slower plot lines. You're like, they could just write a fucking more Ahsoka in, and like we don't need to do this. Go kill a saber-toothed tiger and bring back the bone to the Jawas, and they're going to give you a compass so that you can fix your spaceship again. Like, people will lose their patience for that type of speed of storyline, knowing that like you've got one of the favorite Star Wars characters at your disposal now. Like, all of that goodwill is gone at that point.
Jon Favreau, like, imagine listening to this and having you describe that episode and being like, oh.
You know what I'm saying, though? Like,
either that or
already, like with Bo-Katan, it's like, if Bo-Katan isn't in the episode, then it better be Ahsoka. And I love the Gina Carano character. I don't even know her name. And the Carl Weathers character. I love those guys.
I think her name is Gina Carano. Cara Dune.
Oh, yeah. It's close. But, like, I love them. I'm like, bring them back more. That's going to be great. But, again, now that you have these two other characters,
well,
as long as one of the two of them are in, like, you're going to be happy forever.
They did work Ahsoka into Rebels without her they did a very good job of having her be part of it, but not be all the time, and also you not feeling like, fuck, when's Ahsoka gonna come back? And they did have fucking
I know, but even
episodes
back then they didn't have the final 2 seasons of the Clone Wars cartoon, right, to like hammer home her full arc. Right. And like she was popular before, and like, you know, a fan favorite, but like she really cemented herself as like one of the main greats in the Star Wars legacy after the last 2 Clone Wars. That was
especially after those, but even before that, dude, she was huge. Yeah, like when she was in Rebels, it was, people went fucking crazy when she showed up.
Yeah, but wait, I know, but then after the last 2 Clone War seasons that were just fucking off the charts good, like it's going to be that times 10. And they better not, like, you're going to have to give us a couple episodes back to back to see her do some stuff. You cannot do 5 minutes with her and then she's out. Or at that point, I might actually like be the first time that you're like disappointed in this show. I have not been disappointed yet, but like now, yeah, it feels like they're swimming in a lot deeper waters now.
Yeah. I trust them though.
I do too. I do too.
Because you know what? They've probably had this conversation a million times, like into the late hours of the night with, you know, a whiteboard and just talking about exactly this stuff. Like,
I mean, Ahsoka Tano, that's Filoni's legacy too. It's like, can't fuck up the baby. But then in that, screw up like this show that's been like this breath of fresh air for Star Wars.
Right.
So like two things are about to like butt heads.
Well, I mean,
one can derail the other very easily.
That's my only worry is like, is it just too much power colliding together and you just like, you can't exactly like you said, like, you're just like, okay, you know what? Forget about the Mandalorian and his bounty missions and stuff. Like I'm done now. I saw Ahsoka, like, make a left and let's just go there.
You'll always want more of it.
But I think they'll do it well. I think because it's not like everything hinges on Ahsoka. They're setting so many other things up that we have to know now. The dark saber, Bo-Katan, the fucking Snokes or whatever the fuck they are.
I know there's a fuck ton going on right now.
Boba Fett is still running around out there too. So
plus the main storyline of like, what is this baby Yoda trying to do and try to become, and how important is he or isn't he? Like, there's just that too.
Yeah, well, right. The whole mystery of him. Did Yoda know that he existed? Like all that stuff.
There's so much shit. There is endless possibilities right now. It's just a be careful what you wish for thing. The second like rumor Ahsoka and rumor Rosario Dawson would play her is like, oh my God. It feels like the whole universe, just all the stars aligning all at the right time and everything's great. But then what? Then it's like, oh shit, now that I've had that, now where do you go from there?
Yep.
The story about the little boy who got everything he ever wished for, he lived happily ever after.
You know what? I think that will be true in this.
I hope so. I hope so.
What I think the one thing they could do also to solve it is just make every episode as long as this podcast was.
Let's go. You're right. Sorry.
And they could cover everything. No, I'm not. Dude, look, you know what? I get our great friend Greg, who has been a friend of the show and a guest on the show since day one, just started watching The Mandalorian. This is a good wrap up. He asked me if he could use my Disney login. I was like, yeah, of course, dude.
Don't admit that. Don't admit that on the air. People are coming after you. Just kidding.
Well, I made it pay for his own membership, but I gave him a login for a discount.
There you go.
So he started binge watching it, and he starts texting me, and the first text I got was, as soon as the guy said, "Don't you agree?" I couldn't stop laughing because of you and Charlie.
That's awesome. Wouldn't you agree?
Don't you agree? And then there was a few more like that because it's like, so he had heard us talk about The Mandalorian without having seen it way back in the day that we were talking about it, and now he's
a great man to have done that.
And we've some of our material has paid off and enhanced his enjoyment of The Mandalorian.
He's got to love a show like that, like a space gunslinger guy, just taking no shit, killing people.
Yeah. Greg could be a Mandalorian.
That's right.
If he wanted to be. Get that dude some Beskar and fucking good to go. All right, man. Hey, Charlie, let me ask you one quick question just to lead into my next episode, which is going to come probably in December. Yeah, right around the time that the world was going to end in 2012. Let me ask you this to plant a seed. has anything happened in your life that you can think of off the top of your head that's significant since 2012 that made absolutely no sense? That where you were like, that shouldn't have happened. That just does not track with anything.
You're gonna. To what kind of scope are you talking about right now?
I'll give you my example. I got a job at Google. It fell into my lap. I didn't apply for it. I did nothing for it. I was not qualified for it. I didn't even have to go in to interview for it. Couple of phone calls, I'm working at Google. It was a contract job, but I mean, still, literally, a couple of phone calls to me, and all of a sudden I work at Google. To this day, and I've always thought this, that makes absolutely no fucking sense. Changed my whole career trajectory in terms of day job stuff, making money, how I support myself and my kid. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. And it happened in 2012. I'm wondering if you, before I give you a little bit of a taste of what this next episode is going to be about, can think of anything that jumps to mind. Not that you have to dig and dig around for, but that jumps to mind is like, that didn't fucking make sense. And it happened somewhere since 2012 up till now.
Bill, you'd probably know better than I do on stuff like this. You know what's happened to me more than I do. You know that. Like I call you and ask you questions about something that happened to me that was more centrally about me than it was you. And you remember it better than I do. So you might have a couple things to offer up. I don't know. 8 years ago today, I started at the job a month ago. So it would have been 2012. I started at the job I'm at still to this day and went through all the things I just did to great success. So that was 2012.
And winding
I don't know
up
if it made sense or didn't make sense. I mean, the outcome was fantastic, but
it took you it took you off a road into another one.
Yeah, it did.
Where you ended up in a place that you would not have pictured in 2012. Am I right?
No, it was a major like a fork in the road, and there's 10 different ways you could go.
That's what I'm talking about.
And that is fundamental to where I am right now.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. That kind of thing, the Google
But
thing.
why 2000? Did it have to be 2012?
Yes, because there is a theory that I'm going to talk about.
Oh, this is going to freak me out already.
That the world did, in fact, end on 2012, but in 2012 when it was supposed to, but it didn't end in terms of the world blew up or like the movie 2012, but we shifted into a different parallel universe that was already existing, that we were not on, that we turned into that. And that is why, if you look at now, some of the, and there's, I'm going to go into, there are creepy fucking weird,
you're fucking with me right now. Hey,
examples that I will go into in the episode. It's more than just I worked at Google and you work at this place. There is some weird shit. It's not just coronavirus and the fact that if I told you 8 years ago Donald Trump was going to be the fucking president and not barricading himself in the White House or whatever, while the fucking fires burn and there's protests everywhere and we're borderline people shooting each other in the streets. God knows everything else that's gone on. If I told you that in 2011 and told you where you would be, I don't think you would have bought that.
No, but it is creeping me out because, like, if there has been anything where like a path changed, that's 2012. Like, for real. Like, where I was at the end of 2011 or the start of 2012 versus today, and that is fundamentally when that direction happened.
Yeah, and I wasn't doing all that well in 2010, 2009, 2010. Things started to get a little better, and then 2012.
Wow.
There's a lot of other examples, Charlie, of other things.
Well, why did things get better for us and worse for the rest of the world then?
It's a parallel universe. It's not necessarily, it's some people got better, some people got worse, some people maybe relatively the same.
In the other time frame we were in, I was way skinnier though. So I might change it and go back for that one.
Same. I was
way better looking in the other timeline.
Me Me too.
But
there's a lot of things though.
Happier and healthier, not healthier, but healthier of mind now.
Man,
that is 2012, dude.
It's a marking point. There's things like people remember the Berenstein Bears being spelt a certain way, and it's not actually spelt that way. There's stuff about where the Statue of Liberty is versus where everyone thought it was. There's like pictures of the Statue of Liberty being in different places before and after. It's crazy stuff, but it's the kind of stuff we talk about on this podcast, Charlie. And it's going to be a really good episode, and I'm going to do it right at that December 21st mark. It'll be the last episode of the year, and
it's gonna creep me out. That's when I found out my son, was going to be born, pregnant with the first kid. The whole job career change, like ultra life change in 2012 for me. Huge. My son too. That's what. Wow.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Bill?
Hey, there's a lot of things, Charlie. There's a lot of things people remember that other people don't. It's some crazy shit. My friend Sarah told me about it, who listens to the show, and I said I have to do an episode on that. It's not aliens, but it's it's fucking paranormal and conspiracy, chaotic, weird, quantum craziness that you
no just the more together. I think about, like, if you think what was the most impactful year of your life, like 2012 is now one of, like, certainly one of them.
Same
Found out I was going to be a father for the first time, was doing nothing good during that time, and like, oh shit, I really got to put everything together right now, and then boom, all that year.
I got a job at Google for no reason. I was not qualified. I didn't apply there. I didn't even go in for an interview. I just all of a sudden worked there.
I mean, look, man, if you pick 2011, I could probably find something though. See, like, those type of things are a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope. And that's why what I'm going to talk about in the show is, again, not necessarily just what happened to you as a person, but if people think, can you think of something that is so significant that you think, wow, that really was a profound shift?
Well, yes, I found out I was going to be a father for the first time, and I made
today
a whole different slew of choices, and ended up at a job that I didn't even want to be at, and it led to great things and whatever. But, like, ask any guy who found out they were going to be a dad for the first time, they'd pick that year. I just don't know why it happened to be 2012 for me when you said that. But, like, if you asked any father, they would pick whatever year that they found out their first kid was going to be born. It just, in my case, it happens to be 2012.
Well, right, but also the job thing. If your life shifted,
like huge
in ways that, especially just even with your job, ways that you would not have imagined. We can all imagine that you would have had a kid at some point. You'd been married a couple of years already. I had a kid, when I was about to get married. So and that was many years before 2012. But it's all about, it's about fundamental shifts. The consciousness shift is what.
Yeah, I almost instantly became a different person.
I will present, Charlie, in the next episode a lot of more than just people saying, oh, this happened to me, but actual physical, apparently, according to some people, physical evidence of a transformation from 2012 to now, of a physical transformation to where things in the earth moved location and stuff. The Statue of Liberty is apparently not where it was before 2012, and only certain people remember that.
Okay, this is going to be a fun one. I'll probably be having panic attacks between now and then because, like, overthinking about all this stuff now.
Hey, if nothing else,
with great power, Bill, comes great responsibility. You better do this in a way where I'm not freaked out forever for the rest of my life.
I will make it very even keeled. And hey, just remember this. Look, whatever the fuck happened, if something happened in 2012 to shift us to this, we're ass deep in it now. So we're already in a global pandemic with the craziest political climate and social
ever
borderline civil war you could possibly imagine outside of the Civil War.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that alone is enough to start making a case based on that. You make a case on that, and then you work backwards, which is what I'm going to do in that particular episode, which will be next.
So everyone got like their personal growth best wishes, but the whole country had to go to hell to pay the price of it.
No, we're not going to hell. Nothing's changed.
Did we sell our soul in 2012 where what you thought you wanted and you get it, like basically what you thought you wanted, and then it works for you, but just the whole country goes to shit because of it?
You've gotten plenty of fucked up things since 2012, believe me.
Sure.
And now this, we're living in this certain thing. So it's not like you got the Willy Wonka thing that you quoted earlier,
right?
About what happened to the guys, all the dreams came true, lived happily ever after. It's certainly not that, but it's just that if whatever universe, whatever timeline we were living in up to 2012, at the end of the Mayan calendar, we are now living on a different one. So
and in this new one, aliens are real. The old one, they weren't.
Clearly. And I was actually, that was kind of going to be my, one of the little hidden gems in the show that I was going to get to.
Sorry.
It's fine. I'll still be able to pull it off somehow. But it was the thing where it's up until then, there was no admissions. There was never any admissions. There's this Majestic 12 or maybe this or maybe that. And all of a sudden we get into this timeline and they're like, yeah, there's fucking UFOs. We got pieces of them. Here's some video of it. Go ahead, New York Times, put it on your front page. Whatevs. That's this timeline.
I can't wait for this episode. You don't fuck around. You always say like, I'm going to have it out at this date, and then it's like 3 months later. Just fucking buckle down on this one.
It'll be done soon.
Pre-2012 Bill Cleere doesn't get to it in time, but post does. So stay true to the timeline.
Pre-2012 me never would have fucking stuck with this podcast this long either.
Irrefutable proof that this is a different timeline.
The Statue of Liberty alone is irrefutable proof that this timeline shift has happened. You'll learn all about it.
Charlie's been wearing that shirt for 3 days, and it's white, and there's not any, and it looks just as clean as the first day. That it's irrefutable proof that aliens exist.
There's Star Wars again. There was Star Wars movies with Mark Hamill and shit in them.
Yeah.
That doesn't track. That wasn't going to happen.
That was not going to happen.
Charlie, look, whoever is still listening, by the way, thank you for listening, and hit subscribe if you want, and hit like, and please subscribe to the podcast.
I can't wait for this next episode.
You don't have to listen to all of it, but let me tell you, people love the prequels. The prequels are more popular than the sequels that had fucking Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill in them, which you think that even just with those people in them, they couldn't have fucked it up. People love the prequels now. Really? They love the prequels. Gizmodo put out a video about why the prequels are terrible like 3 or 4 years ago, and it got 27,000 dislikes. People love the prequels now. That doesn't work. The Warriors, the Golden State Warriors, the worst team in basketball for 30 years, were the dominant force in the NBA for 4 years, for 4 to 5 years. They have the all-time wins record in a season. The Golden State Warriors.
Well, they were just due, Bill. Those ones aren't going to blow my mind. Some fundamental shift personally in that year. It's just a coincidence that you said 2012.
It might all be bullshit, Charlie. But whatever the case is, if you just look around the world today, something changed in our consciousness, just something happened at some point that started leading to this. because we were not on track for this.
Yeah.
In 2012. And I'm not saying it's because who was president or who was this or that, none of that. We're not on track for what we are at right now. And then the fact that we have a goddamn pandemic from the fucking 1300s running around, the kind of thing you read about happening in 1918. And now we're happening now in 2020 when we can fucking make cars that dance and robots and we can't cure this fucking flu thing.
No, we have like open racism and civil war is a thing again.
It's a thing.
It's like both are things that, like, they were still racists all over the place, but they were allowed, they're quiet and hidden about that shit, and it was underground.
Yeah.
And
they do
basically had a country
and
yeah, right. Like, you at least had to look over your shoulder if you're going to say some shit like that. Now, like, you just do it in the open. There's almost a civil war again. It's going to be tied loosely to race inequality again, if it does happen, right? Like,
right.
Shit.
It's strange times, dude, and there may be a reason. There may be.
And if someone asks you in 2012, if, like, you think it's possible that, like, we're going to have a civil war and it will be loosely tied to, like, racial issues in certain aspects of it, I'm like, no, not possible.
While there's a global pandemic.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump's the president.
No, never in a million fucking years. No.
And you can keep adding it up. You can just keep adding it up from there. You just keep adding and adding.
I gotta go, Bill.
Charlie, just don't worry about it. You're living on a timeline that you're living on. So am I. Things are fine. We're all living on this timeline. We're not going to hell. We're not. We're just on we're just possibly living on a timeline that's skewed off on 2012. And hey, you know what? We're lucky to be alive. At least the world didn't blow up. We got to keep going, just on a different track. And you know what we got on that track? The Mandalorian.
We got the Mandalorian. This is the way. So say we all.
So say we all. This is the way. I have spoken. You have spoken. And now she will have spoken. Cue the hot chick.
Pop Talk and Aliens, the William Cleere podcast.